This is the One Piece Podcast, episode 786 for the week of Monday, September 11th, 2023. My name is Zach. Oh, wait, none of the other hosts are here.
Oh, I'll be Ed.
I'm Steve. I guess I'm drawing, so here we go.
So Marianne is Alex then.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Or Steven. You could be a very special guest translator for One Piece and Weekly Shonen Jump. Anyway, we actually have three guests here with us. First, storyboard artist on many a Nickelodeon show, and just all around awesome guy who shares Jimbei's birthday. We have Josh McKenzie with us. How's it going, Josh?
Always a pleasure. Hi, Zach.
Thank you. Why did I say that? We also have, you know them as our financial advisor, apparently, but also the through line to this and another podcast coming up. Like, you're going to get this person the entire time, whether you want them or not. Brodsky's with us. How's it going, Brodsky?
I feel very loved with that. Thank you. I am the glue that holds this mess together.
And then, and this really needs to happen now that I'm saying it, the person with the best audio, period.
Yeah.
The voice of Flampe, Marianne Bray, is back with us. How's it going, Marianne?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Better have not accidentally recorded on some sort of phone or something.
Yeah, her audio's just peaking like crazy.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, no! Today we have, so this week, I should say, we have some very special stuff coming for you. First, I think first we're going to have the interview with Daniel Baugh, the voice of Jimbei. Very excited for that. He is super into One Piece in a way that only Marianne is well, there are other voice actors who are super into it. Back in the day, there were like 1,000 episodes. I can't do that. And now people are realizing the greatness that is One Piece and they get it. Then we have I think Josh and Brodsky, you call it Story Time with Steven.
Yep.
Yes, we do.
It's our volume 106 recap. We go through the SBS questions. I'm very excited to listen to that. And then finally, and this is perhaps one of the most exciting things I could say, the SGSs this week. Greg and Steven sit down, take your questions, and more importantly, this week, Greg and Steven are going to answer and talk about the One Piece live action. I think we talked about the fact that it was announced, I think it was 2 weeks ago now, that Greg is a series advisor to the live action, I don't know. We will find out eventually. Is a series advisor to the One Piece live action series through Shueisha. So he's going to talk about that. And I'm very excited to hear it. I have not heard it yet. But extra special news. Also, we are having another episode this week. Not right now, but probably Wednesday or Thursday. I don't want to overpromise, so but we will overdeliver. In that we have Vero and Steve for their first segment going through and recapping the live action series and discussing that. And then we also have the composers of the One Piece live action with us. We have Sonia Belousova, and we also have Giona Ostinelli on to talk about the One Piece live action soundtrack. Marianne and Brodsky, you joined me for that, as well as Ed. Am I missing someone else who was there? What did you guys think of that, just as a preview? Marianne, I'll start with you.
Well, I'm a big soundtrack nerd, so I was super excited. They talk a lot about themes of things, so if you're hyped to figure out what instrument they picked to represent Monkey D. Luffy, the future king of the pirates, then tune in for that.
I will also mirror that because I love listening to the soundtracks for like shows, for video games. It definitely like elevates it. So it was so fun just to see their what was it? They had such passion,
enthusiasm
and passion, not only for the series, but for everything that they did, and everything they did was for a reason. So it was very, very informative.
Yeah, we could have probably gone on for like 4 hours, and we went on for like an hour and a half, I think.
I will say, I'm looking for the vinyl of the soundtrack now, because I will want.
Does that exist?
Well, they're most likely 100%. They'll make it.
Very excited for that. We'll talk about that more when it comes out on Wednesday or Thursday. The midweek, expect that special episode to drop. And also coming in the next few weeks, we have some really cool guests, including the ADR directors for One Piece next week. Emily Farhado and Anthony Bowling will both be on, and we'll also be going through the latest chapter of the manga. I think, Marianne, we were saying before, it's just crazy how many of the One Piece folks are now just caught up with the manga. It makes me, it's an exciting time to be a One Piece fan. I can't say that enough for enough reasons. And then after that, we're going to have Rogers Base on and Mike Patton, friend of the show. And then we'll come out with the October lineup soon, so keep an eye out for that. Lots of cool stuff coming. You're not going to want to miss it, but why don't we get straight into our many awesome special segments this week? Here we go. Hey everyone, we're here for a very special interview with a very special voice actor for a very special character. First, before we introduce him, I want to introduce Brodsky.
Hey there.
Once again, hey. And Marianne, who is also a colleague of this voice actor. Marianne, welcome.
Hi.
Hi. So Daniel Baugh is the voice of the 10th crewmate for One Piece's Jimbei. Welcome, Daniel. It's been a while. We had you on many years ago.
yeah. Time skip.
You've come back. You have a new outfit. Your hair's slightly different, maybe. Welcome, Daniel.
Right. Hi, welcome. Thank you.
So for those who don't know, since it has been a while, do you want to let everyone know how did you the usual question? How did you become a voice actor? But not because I'm trying to steal your job, but because I'm wondering how you got into this career.
Right. Well, I was a stage actor first at a place mainly called the Pocket Sandwich Theater.
Oh.
And I had a friend that was working there, Jade Saxton.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew she was doing anime voices, and I was interested, so I asked her about it, and she got me hooked up with an email so I could send an audition clip in. And I sent an audition clip in. I started doing Walla first, and then I was introduced to One Piece doing Walla, and I thought it was the craziest show I'd ever seen before in my life with the talking snails and stuff. And and then after that, they asked me to read for Jimbei, and I accepted the role and have been doing it ever since.
So I should say Marianne also does the voice of Flampe. So I'm sure you have mutual friends
Connection.
or
So yeah,
acquaintances or something.
I've been to the Pocket Sandwich Theater once or twice, but I've not actually done any shows there yet. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you live in Dallas?
Yes, I do.
Or the area?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, I'm away from home.
So you've been voicing Jimbei. I'm trying to remember what year that was now.
Like 7 years ago?
It's probably when the dub got there, yeah.
Yeah, don't tell me how long ago. Don't tell me that's like 2020 right now. 7. Yeah. So I know that role has changed. You know, in that Jimbei has gone through a lot. How has it been over the last 7 years voicing Jimbei as he decides to leave and come back and then leave again and then come back again?
Yeah, well, there was a long period there where I wasn't for sure if anything was going to happen again. Jimbei is my main role, and I do other voices and stuff. But as for like a big role, I wasn't doing anything hardly. And so there was a time where I was like, I hope I can remember how to even do Jimbei. But then it came back, and it all fell into place. And it was, for the longest time, it was kind of a hurry up and wait. And I was thinking, all this stuff that people have been saying, all these rumors, I'm not sure if this is all going to work out. So I'm not even going to think about it. And so once I stopped thinking about it, is when the emails started rolling in, and a guy contacted me and said, "Hey, look, you're going to be in quite the demand because of one thing, and that is the Funko Pop of Jimbei that's coming out, and you're going to be in high demand for all the comic book cons and such and signings." And sure enough, about a month or two later, once they released it officially, the Funko popping, I'd heard rumors of it before, but I wasn't for sure if it was going to happen. Um, Started getting phone calls, and so I got hold of a guy with conventions, etc., Chris, who does all the lining ups for me and the offers and stuff. So if anybody wants to see me, contact conventions, etc. And Chris, but I started getting signings first. There was some private signings and stuff. And then I started getting the con inventions. And with my lifestyle, I'm not your typical voice actor. I'm not here on this planet just to do voice acting. I do a lot of stuff. But so I like doing these things, but I don't like doing them too much. I don't really enjoy traveling. I travel, it's a perk and stuff, I guess. But I'm doing these cons. I'm doing about once a month, trying to be a little selective. And at my age, I'm not sure how many of these are going to happen. So I kind of like to come out there to the East Coast to see New York. Never been. So if anybody in New York wants to see me, contact Chris at conventions, etc.
I'll contact them. I'll get to it.
I'll say you'd be great at was it ANYC? Is very much like the New York Comic Con of anime in New York City. It's one of my favorites. Gotta get
and
you
it's less intense, and I think than New York Comic Con's a lot. No, I also agree with that. I even at like age 30, I think I hit the conventions all the time. I can't do anymore. Once in a while. I understand.
The ones I've been to have been absolutely incredible, and the people have been so nice. The fans have been outstanding. The question and answers have been thoughtful. I've met so many people, and this is the part that really touches me. Before, when I got the Jimbei role, and everybody was telling me, "Oh, you're going to be like world internet famous," and I was like, "Yeah, okay, I get some stuff." But when people would come up and give me a heart-to-heart about how much the show means to them, or how much my character means to them, it takes you back, especially. A lot of the One Piece fans, they're all over the world, everywhere. But a lot of anime fans in general are people that might have disabilities, that they're home a lot, and this is their life. And it means so much to them. And when they convey it to me, oh man, it just crushes me. I feel so blessed and so gifted with this role. I mean, it's very perplexing. I still haven't grasped all of it. The whole Jimbei One Piece world, and it just keeps getting bigger. But the fans have just been absolutely. I haven't met one that was a jerk or anything in any place I've been to so far.
Yeah, I didn't mean to make it sound like. Yeah, I just meant that they're like exhausting in a good way.
Socially exhausting.
Yeah, it's just
a lot of people.
A lot of my friends are like, "Oh, you get to go to LA and do this," and I'm like, "Well, yeah, I go to an airport, then I go to a hotel,
and then I go to a convention center,
then I go to a hotel, and then I go to an airport. I don't go to Disneyland."
The beautiful sights of LAX.
Right.
There's always that different world of like working a convention where everyone's having fun, but you are like go, and then you get a little bit of sleep, and you're go.
Even the high, like the highs are high, but sorry, go ahead.
I have to admit, during the conventions, I do like to walk around and visit people and meet the vendors and stuff, and they've been really nice to me. The experience is incredible. Young people have so much energy, especially the cosplayers running around and stuff. It's been a lot of fun.
Just thinking my 2-year-old has a lot of energy. So besides the Funko Pop, do you have, I mean, there's a lot of Jimbei merchandise out there now. I mean, Jimbei is a member of the Straw Hats now. You're on the boat. You get to go on the rest of the adventure. Not that, I think we also say it's One Piece, every character comes back, but Jimbei's definitely going to be in it. Are you excited? I know you're, at this point, very close to catching up with the anime. Yeah. So, how is it? Well, I guess since we haven't talked in so long, first I'll ask, how has it been going crazy and dubbing so many episodes, and especially the ones you're in a lot more?
Mm-hmm. Well, it was a little different because we've got two great directors that are working on it right now, with Emily and Anthony, and I believe both are coming to you next week. For your show.
I think that is next week. Time is very flying.
Because I want to hear what my bosses have to say.
Well, we're here to specifically talk about Daniel.
Yeah, that's the thing. Every time I'm watching One Piece and I don't see Jimbei, I'm like, they should be saying, "Where's Jimbei?" Like, where's
That's
Poochie?
true. Yeah. Appreciate that.
The directors are good, and with them splitting up the load, it got us really caught up. And so they didn't really skirt on any quality issues or anything, but they got caught up. And another thing that helped was all the breaks that Japan takes. And so, they would try to work, while, try to get caught up and stuff. So, but there would be parts where, I would record for one of them, and then I would record for another part that was either before or behind, and I hadn't seen either one. And so I had to get a context from them. And both of them are very, very good at establishing the context of everything. So that helps me.
Yeah, that's got it. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. Or I thought Brodsky. We also have Josh here. I don't know, Josh, if you also have any questions. I want to at least introduce that you're here.
Yeah, hi, sorry. I'm a late joiner. No, I'm just loving this. It just sounds like your experience is so much fun. I love how much fun you're having. I mean, Jimbei is such a lovely character, so I'm delighted that you've had such a great experience so far.
I'm very happy that I was blessed with a really cool character, especially one that's so forthright and upstanding, just the opposite of me. It is good that he's not a jerk, because like I did the Attack on Titan, I did Roger, and he was a jerk, and so never ever comes.
A lot of people on Attack on Titan are. Yeah.
And I've been doing lately this character on Vinland Saga, Badger, who's an old fat drunk, and so I'm like, am I being typecast? What's going on?
Jimbei's the opposite. He is like straight laced, the guy on top of everything.
Yeah. Right now he's helping him put out those fires.
Yeah.
I've been watching the Japanese on it, and I keep thinking, like, is he kind of like Homer in Treehouse of Terror when his head was a fish and he could smell it cooking? He goes, fish. Is Jimbei thinking that? I smell fish on a plank. Oh, that's
a good question.
The other thing I was thinking of as I was watching this episode was, that's a lot of elephant snot water.
Oh, yeah.
And that makes me also think, can Jimbei just force some pee out of him or some snot to have a shot as a weapon if he has to? He doesn't have to be around water, right? He can kind of create his own.
How has that not been asked?
Yeah, these are the questions.
these
Many
are
such cases.
Is Jimbei like a Pokemon where he could just produce water,
I'm actually shocked that no one has asked if Jimbei pees, can he use his... that is an SBS question.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Oda would love that.
Oda would love that. I'm sure he's talked about the elephant snot and how much, I'm not going to go into that.
I'd love to ask Oda in person.
You probably have one of the best chances of doing that. Your Jimbei's voice. What was the other? Oh, so I think you're also... of the voice actors, present company excluded, a lot don't have the... You're caught up, I know, with the anime, or you're also pretty far in the manga too, right?
I try to be. I can't catch it all, and lately my real life has kind of taken away from that. I try to catch
Awful.
them on the plane and stuff, but I'm keeping up with it a little bit, not as much as you'd probably like.
I mean,
No.
it's its own part-time job.
Yeah.
Truly.
It is. That's why I don't watch any other anime or read anything else. I only have time for one. Well, a few things. Okay.
Yeah.
If
I was going to say, right now, my biggest time consumption is the breaking down of the Fifth Gear. I'm like watching all of it, and I'm seeing all the references to all the cartoons that I watched as a child.
I know.
And I really like the Roadrunner legs.
Yeah.
When you get them spinning. I don't know why I like that so much. It's like ridiculous.
No, I think it's really great to see. I guess One Piece has always been kind of based on that like era of Looney Tunes and Tom and Jerry and like that era of cartoons. And at the beginning it has a lot of that, but it's really nice to see it. And it this weird mesh of
It was 11.
I feel like we've always joked about it when you're watching. You're like, haha, it's like, the cartoons. But then when Gear 5 happens, it's just like, no, literally Looney Tunes.
No, literally.
And it's something I was thinking about. Okay, when he was in Fifth Gear and he was grabbing Kaido and beating him up and stuff, and you were seeing how Kaido was, taking it like a Looney Tunes character. So is that because of Luffy's power to change everything that he touches? Is it changing Kaido to have him actually, survive all this while being beat up because he's even grabbing them?
It's a fourth wall thing even, the whole series just becomes Looney Tunes, I think, is the...
Right.
Marianne, Josh, Brodsky, I don't want to monopolize.
I'm trying to think.
If not, I have Twitter questions too I could ask.
Okay.
For Daniel.
Oh, but that's something I want to show you. I saw
What?
one of the Twitter questions was asking about
Oh.
things that I sign and stuff. I didn't sign this, but I did get it. This is a bejeweled Funko Pop Jimbei that I got
Stop.
in
Bejeweled.
Stop, he's
Sparkly.
bedazzled.
He is
You've been-
amazing.
Yeah, a lady did every one of these by hand.
Wow.
And she
Wow.
had 3 or 4 of them for sale. I was like, yep, that's fine. And so this is like my nothing, I guess. I don't know.
One day
That
they'll
and,
make a Flampe one.
That, and I had to Funko Pop myself. She's carrying
Oh.
Yes.
Wait, that's
And
awesome.
his hair isn't as gray as mine, but I got one.
Well, you get to imagine it how you want to imagine it. I think is the good thing.
Because I was gonna say, like, my question, I think you kind of answered before, because like you play such a beloved character, even like for myself, like reading it, and just like the emotions and a lot of the feelings you get from him too. He's kind of like now that he's finally on the crew, he feels very like much like the dad, where he's finally a little bit more retired and like can like oversee being like, I'm just gonna drive the
Very
car.
retired. Yeah.
But he's not, the one
Absolutely.
black coffee drive through the drive-through. He's like, he'll make sure everyone gets a happy meal.
Yes, okay, kids, we're going to McDonald's.
Yeah.
I've been rereading Whole Cake Island, and Jimbei is such a presence in like, and I'm gonna steer everyone in the correct direction here. I guess I didn't mean the pun there, but it works.
Yeah.
But in that, this is how it's, is it okay, Luffy? I think we should do this and this and this and this. It's just crazy seeing the adult in the room for the Straw Hats that you are. It's great. I'm sure it's
They need that presence.
Yeah.
yeah.
Frankie's like, whew. I'm off the job.
Well,
He's
Robin.
he's no longer dead. Now you have Jimbei. That's right
Robin
there.
never even tried. It was just
Not
too
really.
much. She just laughed at everyone for being ridiculous.
Frankie is now the uncle.
Yeah.
Yeah, as he should be.
Yeah.
I think. I was just, and I just, since we talked a little bit about what's to come in the manga, I think the uncle energy exudes. I don't know if you've seen the Jimbei outfit for the next arc. That
Oh,
You haven't
yeah.
seen that one.
It's there's like a Hawaiian shirt, like kind of like that, like.
well, it's funny.
fun.
Everyone's in like super futuristic stuff. Sanji excluded for some reason, also. But then like Jimbei's in his like, I'm retired now. I'm going going to Boca or whatever.
Going to Margaritaville.
Margaritaville. Yeah,
he
that's
doesn't need
it.
spandex. He doesn't need boots. He's too old for this.
Yeah, I'm just gonna wear my weird floral hoodie, and it's gonna be great. I think you're gonna really enjoy that. Is what I mean to say. I think Jimbei is very funny so far in the arc. There could always be more Jimbei. I think this is what you wanted, the Poochie moment you wanted us to say. But it's true. There could always be more. I think generally with the Straw Hats, since there's 10 of them now, you always want more of them interacting. Hopefully we see more. I hope you're excited for some Hawaiian shirt Jimbei.
Absolutely.
See, that's the one I'd want a pop of.
Yeah, that's a good. That would be a good one.
Yeah.
I want that figure just of like sitting on a. I think. I don't know if you saw. Our co-host Steve did. What was it? Lazy River Jimbei, where he's sitting on the. Yeah. That's the exuding, kind of theme, I guess. I don't mean to give director's notes like a year before you get to it. So I'll ask. So sorry, Marianne, Brodsky, Josh. Any more Uncle Jimbei questions?
I mean, I was gonna ask about merch, but I can't top the bejeweled.
No,
Jimbei.
bejeweled
Yeah,
Funko
right.
Pop is something.
I'm set.
Yeah, I swore that I wasn't going to turn my home into like a Jimbei museum, but I do have both of the Funko Pops and the one with the 4-pack of them, and I'm getting people to. They're having me sign the Going Merry, which is kind of weird because like Jimbei wasn't even on that thing, but
That's true.
I'll sign it anyway. I'll sign it.
Yeah.
The Thousand Sunny makes more sense since.
Anime fans are interesting that way.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Anime fans are interesting that way. Having you sign things that you're like, I wasn't really a part of this, but okay.
I could also understand the hesitation of not wanting to get, because like now that like Jimbei is like officially part of his merch is from someone who collects a lot. Like he has so much, and you don't want to. That would take over an entire room.
You could definitely take over an entire room with it.
You're smart to stem the tide. Well, it's easy.
No, buy it all.
Quite a few people that do have me sign like a Funko Pop or something is because they have the other cast members and they want to complete their set. They can't have it, just hanging there open. Oh, I don't have Jimbei. So, they want that. And so if you want something signed by me, if you're out there and you want something signed by me, I'm an old guy. So it's very limited time offer on these signatures.
Don't
so
say
if
that.
you want me soon, see me soon.
You're not that old. Come on.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the mileage. The odometer's turned over.
No. I was going to say, in the anime community, let's be honest, 29 is like retirement age in the anime community.
I should be retired too then, I guess.
Oh, I'm going to get that Jimbei outfit as soon as I can, as someone in their mid-30s. Like, It's crazy how it feels super skewed. You feel old immediately after you graduate college in the anime community. So I think in the regular world, you don't have to worry about that. Okay.
Funny, when I go to Crunchyroll and I'm recording, I'm the oldest guy there, unless our Bruce Elliott walks in and then.
I need to.
That's
yeah,
true.
Whitebeard. And so usually if I get an additional voice character, it's usually something like Hobo number 3 or Old Guy number 4, something like that. So I'm
that's typecasting.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite voice actors generally are the older ones, and both the English and the Japanese side. So, like, I feel like that's something to embrace later on when you get there. It's diversity in all forms, I think, is important generally, and in the voice acting world.
I'm hoping this will carry into my retirement because I'm about to retire from my regular job very soon, and so I'm hoping that this and even doing signatures and stuff will keep me afloat since we don't know about Social Security. And I just noticed something in this the way this it looks like Tawarts.
Oh,
Oh,
Straw Hats
yeah,
backward.
Straw Hats backwards, yeah.
Forwards. Anyway.
Why has no one come up with that? Any other Brodsky, Marianne, or Josh before I get to
No.
Think
fan
I'm good.
questions? Okay, let's see what the fans have come up with. I don't know if you saw this one, but I'll put it in the chat. Big Mac asked, question for you. What do you think about Joshua Hurstein's design for Jimbei's Jolly Roger being the inspiration for the official one? So this was sent just as some backstory. I'll put it on our description too. Josh, who I think is a listener of the show too, or at least was, sent this in an SBS, and Oda said, I like it. I'm going to tweak it very slightly, but I like it. Yeah, what do you think of Josh's Jimbei?
Oh, that's fun.
I think it's great. Actually, that was the very first piece of Jimbei merchandise I bought. I bought some stickers of that on eBay, not eBay, on Amazon, and put them on my phone and stuff. And I was thinking I was thinking, oh, that's a cool design. Obviously fan made, but it is a cool design. And when Oda went with that and tweaked it, I thought that was really very humbling of him, and it just shows how cool he is. It really does.
Yeah, I think I like that one a little more. I'm like trying to find the official one again just to make sure, but no, I really like that one. It's slick. Maybe too slick for One Piece. Maybe that's the problem. Next one comes from Papa Proprietor, who said Jimbei has basically become Team Dad as of the current point in the manga. Do you think this man can work the grill?
Another Fishman question. Does he eat fish?
Ooh.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they do. I think they do eat fish. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
It's a little cannibalistic, but
wait, he's technically a whale and not a fish. So
no, Jimbei is a whale shark.
Whale shark.
He is
Oh
a
no,
fish.
whale shark, which is a wait.
Is a fish.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
confusing, but it is.
That's right. That's right.
Because otherwise he'd be on Zoe as a giant whale guy.
You're right. You're right.
It's a mammal.
We eat smaller mammals. So.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, yeah, we eat lots of mammals and bigger mammals.
So if he were to eat a whale
humans eat a
shark,
lot
it
of-
might be messy, or other fishmen, but he's not, so it's fine.
I'm sure he could work a grill just fine, and if there
Oh,
ever
yeah.
had a fire break out, he could put it out.
Can you have? I think there's a Futurama thing of like grilling underwater and how you would actually do that under those circumstances. I wonder if he can. Are fishermen good with a barbecue? I don't know. The next question's from Sam, who says, when doing the voice, are you trying to emulate what the Japanese voice actor is doing, or I'll add, trying to do your own thing, something in between?
Am I doing my own thing? I do try to emulate the feel of the Japanese. We get to watch the Japanese first. And so I'll watch it a couple of times if I have to, just to get the feel down. I don't try to mimic the Japanese actor's voice by any means. I just do my own thing. But I do try to get the feel of the atmosphere of what it's down, what he's up against, what he's just came across, physicality. Is he running? Am I having to run in place? All kinds of things like that. So I try to emulate those kinds of things. But it's really up to the director if they want to go a different route than the original, and we'll play with that, and we'll get a couple of different takes, and they'll bounce them off each other, see what works best, and then put the best one in.
That's really interesting. I
Yeah.
hadn't thought about that before.
Pop Greens, and we kind of addressed this, but maybe you have a more out there answer for this. It says, since you've been going to tons of conventions since Film Red came out, what was the most interesting Jimbei or One Piece in general related thing that you have signed so far?
Okay, it has to be. There's this young artist in Arizona. I believe he's in Arizona. He was at the Arizona convention. He's on Instagram as Pooh Brezzy, POOHBREZZY, I believe. He does anime paintings, and I mean, he actually does paintings on these huge panels, and you can watch videos of him. He did one during the show. He's incredibly with a brush. It looks like just like he was done with computers. But he's an amazing artist. He had me and R. Bruce Elliott sign one of his that had the whole crew. That was the really coolest thing I got to sign. It was signing on the back.
Oh, I see.
So that looked like my signature. One of the worst things to sign, I got to be honest, to get this out to the fans, one of the worst things to sign are the straw hats. I've had people had me sign the straw hat. They do not absorb ink well with a Sharpie. About the only thing you can do is use a black Sharpie and get the band that goes around it.
Yeah.
But trying to just sign, it's like trying to write on the moon. It's crazy.
I am hoping.
I feel very thankful. Oh, thank you. And I'm like, that looks like crap.
You need a paint pen.
But you did it.
I'm hoping with the live action stuff we get better quality straw hats, and maybe better, easier to sign ones. But we'll see. Straw is straw. You know, I don't know.
I doubt even if it's like the nicest one, it will not be nice to sign. It's a texture.
Yeah.
The one thing I want to see change, and this is just not going to happen, is when I walk around and visit the vendors and stuff, it's Zoro all day long. They'll have more Zoro stuff than Luffy stuff. And I'm like, where's Jimbei? I like Zoro a lot. He was my first fan favorite after the Come in Order almost. But yeah, I was like, why is it always like 4 stickers of Zoro and 1 Luffy and that's it? So order more Jimbei.
Show the demand.
I can relate.
Yeah, there's not a lot of Flampe merch. That's true.
0.
Really 0?
Well,
but it's One Piece. There is definitely Flampe stuff out there. There's something for every
like
character.
2 things, and they're like $150, and I can't justify that.
We're gonna have to what do you call it? Crowdfund that.
Yeah, we'll crowdfund. We'll go fund you this.
Go fund Flampe. Go Flampe me. No, that doesn't.
You're trying.
I don't like where this is going. Next one comes from Gabe Ruiz, who says, congrats on Jimbei replacing Frankie as Straw Hat Stat. I feel like we addressed literally everything here. My question about Jimbei's dream for Fishman equality. It's probably one of the hardest to achieve, like, in real life. What do you believe it'll take for his dream to come true in this series? Oh, I see what he means. To achieve, like, in real life, we have the same issue here. Yeah.
Right. And thankfully, the universe of One Piece is not our real life. So we have that hope. Something as complex as, like, racial relations and stuff like that, it gets intertwined, and the only way that we'll ever come together on anything like this is just small steps of individuality, of kindness and grace, and not being jerks and seeing what's fair and stuff. As for the show, I'm not sure if there's any one thing that could happen. I mean, Jimbei supplied his blood to Luffy. If the whole world was watching, maybe that might have helped things. However, we are seeing some changes where things are much better than they were when the series started, at least in my point of view. I'm seeing, fishmen fight alongside humans in certain situations. So it'll be interesting to see how the fishman role is at the final arc and the final battle. The battle royale is what I call it. See how that goes. But I think One Piece is such a microcosm of all different kinds of issues. And emotions and things. That is just another piece that's weaved into this that makes this show so interesting and so appealing to so many different people. But as for how to solve the problem, I'm not sure how. I'm not the person. That is one very deep question, which is I could spend a couple of beers on, but yeah, it's a good question, but I'm not sure how. I would just say that hopefully because One Piece isn't our real world, that there will be some unification of them.
I'll also say we don't know how Luffy's going to become king of the pirates still, so completely at least. We don't know what the One Piece is, but these things I'm sure will start to become more clear as we go on. Those were the fan questions, so now I'm going to ask our usual questions. The first, and you cannot say Jimbei, it's off the table. Who is your favorite Straw Hat? And we know the answer is Jimbei, but if it's not Jimbei, or I should say pre-Jimbei, let's pretend.
There is a right answer.
Is there?
And it's not Zoro, it's Josh.
No, Josh.
There's 3 that I really like. Not to take away from the others, but there are 3 that I really like. But I have to say, number 1 is Monkey D. Luffy.
That's the right answer.
Freaking funny. I love Luffy. Outside of him, I also love the backstory of Nami. Very strong character. I like that a lot. And like I said, I've always liked Zoro from the very beginning, but I'm starting to come around on Sanji. There was a while there, though.
Yeah, that's all of us. That's all of us.
I think that's the vibe.
And now I'm like, yeah, okay, I can dig him. He's cool. So
we all liked him at first, then something happened. And then we liked him again.
Yeah.
The dark times. Yeah.
He was never my favorite, and then you get to like the Whole Cake Island, it was like, okay, maybe. I think
I've been, as I said, I've been rereading that, and it is very heart-wrenching, a lot of his backstory stuff. And the backstory at the beginning is also heart-wrenching. But then a bunch of stuff in the middle. We won't talk about. The next question, who is your favorite non-Straw Hat Pirate? Anyone else?
I do have a penchant for Buggy. I like Mike McFarlane's character a lot. I also like Panda Man.
Yes.
Good answer.
If I picked a third, I might even go. Hard to say. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yeah, I was going to say you don't have to do 3. You're giving yourself a harder task than was assigned. Who's your favorite antagonist? And it can't be Buggy because Buggy isn't really an antagonist.
Blackbeard.
Good answer too.
I like Blackbeard, his voice and his laugh, and it's such a great role. I mean, he's a pirate. He's one of the One Piece people that looks like a pirate.
Well, he's the archetypal pirate. The last question I have is, what is your favorite story arc?
I'm torn between 2. Although Whole Cake Island was really fun, stuffing some food down Big Mom's mouth, I really
did do that.
the battle. The escape from Impel Down and the Impel Down arc and the Marineford battle. I think Marineford battle is my top. I think I could never get sick of it. I could watch it all the time.
It's funny because it's like answering from Jimbei's point of view, I guess. If where did I stand out the best in this series?
Okay, I'm going to be honest. Most of the shows that I have seen have Jimbei.
No, I get it. I would be the same way if I voiced Jimbei. No, that makes sense. And to be fair, I think even if you don't take Jimbei into consideration, those are good answers.
Wait, I thought of a third. And I mean,
you've only had to do 1.
No, I want to know.
Yeah, now I
say
need
the
to.
name right, so you'll have to correct me. But I love the character. And I'm going to say it what I think is wrong, which is probably the right way to say it. Yamato.
Yamato.
Yeah.
Yamato. I knew I had a 50-50 chance, and I F it up.
Yeah, I guess Jimbei never really says his name.
I love that character. He's so awesome. Neat
awesome
character.
Any other questions? Those were mine. Okay. I think we've been talking around an hour too, almost. I know, flew by. Everyone support your Uncle Jimbei.
Yes.
Make sure to go out at conventions and only give Daniel non-straw hat Jimbei related items.
You could get like straw hat printed on like a shirt if you want to do it. Sign that.
Shirts are
Yeah.
signed
Something-
too, though.
Yeah, but something like
You need like a
flat-
good marker, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah.
Get him some markers.
Yes. Get him some paint pens.
Oh, bring your own when you have the straw hat sign that you know works on the straw hat. That's how you do
That
it.
actually, yes, do that. If you have something
Yeah.
that's weird to sign, bring your own thing to sign. Have people sign it with.
And that concludes this episode of Convention Tips.
I say, having only been to one myself as a guest.
God, but that's straw hat. Daniel, thank you so much for coming on. I hope I'm sure we'll have you again
Yeah.
soon.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much. It's been a pleasure. I'm glad we finally got to meet up.
Yeah.
To all your fans. I need more fans on my socials. I'm on all of them, so just dig me out. I'm there.
Well, we'll link them all, so just follow them all and buy all the Jimbei merch so Jimbei becomes the most popular straw hat. I already know he's probably up there,
Oh, he is.
like way higher than I would even think.
He's
Jimbei-
top half for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you're also saying that because you share a birthday with him, Josh. That might be.
Yeah, and he's got a good birthday.
Wow.
Real quickly, on YouTube, there was a Watch Mojo where it was the 20th most powerful people in One Piece. And I was like, oh boy, is Jimbei on the top 20? And they started out with number 20 was Zoro. And Jimbei wasn't anywhere
Wow.
on there. I was like,
That is
man.
What?
Like,
yeah,
Zoro?
how do you find 19 stronger people than that?
Because let me tell you, like Jimbei is also
No, that's
one
pow-
of my favorites because I
No.
love me a good.
This is the
dad.
power scaling hour.
Power.
Yeah,
I
we're
was
doing
gonna say this is a community we don't relate to
No.
or cater to. Jimbei top 5.
Oh, yeah.
We'll just
There you go.
at least on this segment right now. Definitely.
Also, no, wait, no, he was just also ranked. So in this one, there was a question on who could like outdrink everyone in the Straw Hats, and Jimbei was
Oh.
number 1. Jimbei can handle his liquor over Zoro.
Wait, now you're typecasting Daniel again as someone who could drink.
Well, not saying that he
I don't drink at all.
Jimbei doesn't have
Yeah.
to, but he can definitely take Zoro.
Yeah, they're not calling Jimbei a drunk. They're
No.
just saying he can hold it when
He
he's
could-
got
yeah.
to.
Yeah.
Oh, by
I
the
ha-
way,
Yeah.
Yeah, actually.
That's true. Yeah, like that. I don't know if that's part of the
It's-
impetus, or maybe fishmen are just really
Yeah,
good with it.
I'll
Fishman,
never understand power scaling.
Constitution.
You know, power scaling should be constitution by how much alcohol they could drink. That's a much more interesting list to me. Anyway,
That Nami'd be
Well,
way,
maybe.
way up higher than
D-
she.
Zoro, Nami. Zoro did well at the Whiskey Peak thing. Anyway, getting off topic. And by that I mean, thank you, Daniel, for coming on.
Yeah.
thank you
so much.
I'll say I
It was
hope
a
I
pleasure.
see you at a convention because I do go to a lot of the comic ones. If I do, I'll make sure to come by.
Please do. Please do. Would love that.
And we'll tell people to come to New York, or tell that you need to be in New York. Anyway,
Yes.
thank you.
Tell people in New York to tell them
To-
cons to bring Daniel on.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not including this part at all, which means it's going to be in it. Okay, we're good.
All
right,
right.
thank
Thank you so
you.
much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you very much.
Everyone have a good evening.
All right.
You too.
Bye.
You too.
Bye.
This is the manga recap for volume 106, A Genius's Dream. So this is story time with Steven for the SBS for volume 106. That's right. And joining us for this segment, of course, is our very special guest, the translator for One Piece and Weekly Shonen Jump, Stephen Paul.
Yes, it's overdue. With this volume came out a couple of months ago at this point. But,
July 4th, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a busy couple months with the Gear 5 and the live action series, so we're finally getting around to it.
Yep. And joining us for this segment are Team Dark. Team Dark is back, and it's Josh McKenzie.
Hey, sports fans.
Welcome back. And Brodsky.
Hey, it's been a minute.
Welcome back. So, yeah, I guess we'll start on the cover of volume 106. Steven, take it away.
All right, yeah, we got a another egghead cover here. Very colorful. I don't know if we even talked about this one on the podcast itself. But
am I wrong? Is this the first time we got their color palette for Egghead?
No, I don't even remember last volume. I thought we did, but maybe we didn't. It's a very how should I say this? Like good and plenty, like a lot of purple and white and pink here.
Yeah, I like the base color, the base sort of that dark ocean blue. It's very nice.
Yeah, the background. Mm-hmm.
Egghead looks like a sherbet, kind of.
Yeah, very Mike and Ike coded. I agree.
Ice cream, yeah, like 31 flavors.
Jimbei's shirt. It's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this volume, I think, what was the promotional video? Was that the Calliope Mori music video that they did to promote this, I think?
I don't know.
Before it came out. Like with 105, we had that crazy like punk records video with the the hot jazz like seatbelts style accompaniment, and so they did it again for 106, and I believe that was with the VTuber Mori Calliope. So it's good to see them getting lots of more, making it more of an event whenever they put out a new volume. This tells you pretty much like if it was any other arc, I think he would have chosen the like Adventure in the Land of Science type of title. But this one is called A Genius's Dream. And if we look under the cover, I was actually, before we were setting up, I was just looking at this because I forgot where the Panda Man was, and I made a discovery which I didn't realize at first. Now the one that will stick out to you first is Robin's face. Robin has turned into Panda Man. Oh, no.
That's a jump scare.
Yeah, that's a downgrade. I'm sorry, Panda Man. But if you look even closer at the little, what are they, pneumatic tubes that the people float through, there are actually two little Panda Men.
I just noticed them. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like the Robin was a little bit of a cop-out. I'm like, oh, that's really obvious one. But then I was like, no. He's just going.
Yeah, there's one on the left, and then there's one at the bottom just above the Eiichiro Oda. So, yeah, he's traveling all over the place. And if we turn on the inside flap for the author comment, I love this illustration here because he just did the Google reCAPTCHA thing where it's an illustration of Chopper chilling on a beanbag. He seems to be smoking a spliff or something. Like he's definitely got
toked up Chopper for sure.
Yeah.
He got into Law's stash.
Sitting in the love sack like that.
Right, yeah, and he's got the whole like select all the tiles that contain Chopper. It is like it is totally the Google thing.
Chopper Captcha.
And 2020 Captcha.
His comment here is AI is advancing with blinding speed. Some people say that human evolution has gone hand in hand with lies. People are able to live in groups because they can lie to each other. When we create robots that can lie to people, that could be a huge turning point in history. And what will those robots say? I am not a robot. So at any rate, the future is full of excitement. And here comes volume 106, the Future Island arc. So, yeah, he's clearly been thinking about the Google CAPTCHA stuff.
A very dismal view of humanity. I respect it.
Yeah. I think this is around the time, too, that he was doing those, I don't know if you remember this, when he was, like, playing with Chat GPT, and he was, like, come up with the story for what to do next. And then, like, you know, it would spit out something, and he would say, like, that's not funny, like, make it more interesting. And then it did something else. It, you know, gave him another idea for Egghead, and he was like, okay, that's cool, I'll draw that, thank you. So he's been messing around with it and having fun, so I'm sure that was on the brain. But yeah, this is volume 106, A Genius's Dream, and it covers from chapter 1066, The Will of Ohara, through chapter 1076, Old Friends. So this is all Egghead, starting from the the flashback to young Vegapunk and Dragon hanging out together in Ohara, and going all the way to Shanks hanging out with the giants in Elbaf, and about to fight Kid. So let's see, where is our SBS?
I'll say, like, I didn't want to be reminded about that Kid fight. Then I was scrolling through it. I'm just like, oh no.
I think that's going to be probably the first chapter of the next volume too. So our first SBS segment on page 24, we have a nice header illustration of Vegapunk, or is Vegapunk? Yeah, he's there, and then all of the satellites, the 6 different Vegapunks, and they're all just kind of hanging out and acting like themselves. And our first comment here is, "Hey Odachi, here, enjoy some chocolates. Take a break. Just chill and have a snack. Oops, oh, that one had poison in it. I'm sorry." And then there's like a little, like a cheeky little, like, okay, let's start the SBS, which will be chock full of questions. And Oda is like, thump, beep, 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 like, the heart monitor. And he's like, oh, whoa, I nearly died there. Oh, whew. And he's like, listen, okay, if there's one thing I know about chocolates, there are no poison-filled chocolates. They do not exist. That's not a thing that happens.
I wouldn't be so sure about that.
That's a bold statement.
It's a bold statement, yeah. Our first real question here, or comment, is from Daikon Man, who says, Oda Sensei, congrats on winning the WBC, referring to the World Baseball Classic, which Japan won at the start of the year. And so Oda has a little fun with that. And he says, oh, thanks. Yeah, you heard about that, huh? Do you hear about my my double-bladed exploits? Yes, I had a lot of delicious wakame seaweed with the Wakame Boiling Club at the WBC. Yeah, I think so the double-bladed comment, I believe, is a reference to Otani, because he's
playing two ways.
Right. He's a pitcher and a hit and a slugger, and so that's how they refer to him in Japan. Next, Shanks and Ben Beckman. Which one is more popular with the ladies? Who gets more ladies? And the question we've all been wanting to know. This is the real power scaling.
I mean,
many such cases.
I have
here.
my own opinions right now, but I'll keep it to myself after you answer.
And this is strictly manga, not live action.
Wait, hold on, Brodsky.
Oh, I have opinions on all of them.
Brodsky, put your choice in now. Who's more popular?
So I have. Okay, I know Shanks is that, but like there is something about Ben Beckman that's just so hot. So I'm just gonna put my personal opinion. I love Shanks, but manga Ben.
See, I think Ben Beckman is more popular with gay men, but I think Shanks is for the women.
Shanks is for the women.
I'm gonna go Shanks.
Like Shanks is for the women,
girlies,
but
yeah.
like the people who like Ben Beckman are the ones of true taste.
Interesting. All right. Well, Oda's answer is Shanks is more popular, I suppose. Yeah. But Beckman hits on many more women. He loves the ladies.
Oh, great.
He'd be very smooth.
Yeah. I mean, he's at least we know canonically he gets around, because that's what he was doing when he had left Shaki when we first saw him in Sabaudi. Last question on this one is. Please, can you rank these Straw Hats by how well they hold their liquor? You've depicted Zoro and Nami being very resistant to alcohol, but what about the others? And he gives us a little 1 through 10 ranking. Number 1 is Jimbei, followed by Zoro and then Nami, and then Frankie, Sanji, Robin, Brook, Usopp, Luffy, and Chopper. And he says, this is a difficult ranking to make because liking booze and being able to handle it are different things. So not everyone on the crew drinks with the same level of enthusiasm. Luffy could potentially drink a lot, but he would always rather eat first. So
I was like, who gives Chopper any alcohol? Please don't. As a babe.
He's underage, yeah. He should not have any alcohol. And then we will move on to the next SBS segment, where we have one of the regulars, the regular illustrators, Hippo Iron, who has a very adorable Wano era illustration of Otama and Chopper, and she's showing off the woven hat with the Tanuki sitting on his balls, and the baboon and Chio. What was the I forget what the lion dog's name was.
Komachio.
Komachio, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Man, it's been a little bit since Wano at this point. And our first segment is asking Oda to draw the personification of Law's Kikoku. And then there's another person who says, "Can you please draw Katakuri's mole spear, Mogura?" And they say, "You always draw them looking dumb, so make this one look cool." And so Oda draws the mole is just a mole like standing on like very human legs, but he's got a crown on his head, and he is eating a donut, just like Katakuri.
I feel that mole deeply inside.
I know. I won a toy of that yesterday.
It's very Azumanga Daioh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then Kikoku this one is actually a pun on Oda's part. So it's basically a guy with a mustache, with like a Salvador Dali mustache, a wax mustache, and he's got like a cap, a baseball cap with a sword point sticking out of the end, and he's like, "Oh, I'm so tired from my travel," because he's got a big backpack on. And so the joke here is like Kikoku is the kanji that Oda uses is like demon howl or something like that. But the word, if you just heard the word itself, Kikoku, like the everyday Japanese meaning would be to return home. So he's like he's gone on a trip and now he's coming back home.
It's
so that was the joke he did there.
the mustache is getting me. When I saw that, I'm just like, oh no, that's Lost Sword. I'm like, oh god.
It's a disguised mustache.
I kind of actually love the pun intended with it.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. The next one is this is a question that I really wanted to know because it was very confusing to everybody, which I think you can probably tell even without reading Japanese what this is about. It is a question about Law's kroom, the kroom beats to study to, or K room as we're going to call it. And the question is the K from Law's awakened technique K room short for kakusei, which is awakening? Or is it from Kikoku, the name of his weapon? And Oda explains, well, Law's battle techniques involve, first he has to create the room. That's his surgical room where he can, do whatever he wants. And in the K room, he is locking his own sword within the room. And that's how he uses his special sort of sword vibrating powers that are super powerful. And they make the shockwave with his like a gamma knife. So the K is short for knife, actually.
Oh,
that as a casual launch.
Yeah,
I can't say that with a straight face. This is probably one of the most interesting questions because that was something I was wondering why, but no, that makes sense now if you think about his attacks while when he uses K room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I needed to know about the kroom. So this is good.
Yeah.
We need to know
and actually, now that I think about it, it should be the room because the K is silent in knife. So
that's true. That's true.
Up.
It's still room, but different vibe of room.
Yeah.
Knife room.
And he explains that the other one that he has done, re-room, is short for remote. So prior to using a re-room, Law would always have to be inside the room. He had to be the attending surgeon. But with the awakening of his power, he was able to remotely use the operating room. That's what those mean. He says, pretty much as he always says, if that all seems too complicated to understand, don't worry, just go on vibes.
No, this is honestly that makes the most sense. As soon as you said remote room, I'm like, yeah, because he's not inside it when he's like trapping Big Mom. Is like the little the image shows there, and I'm like, that makes so much sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good to know because I was very confused. I think everybody was confused about that.
I feel like we all just like
so-
heard him use a new move and got all excited and didn't really think about. We're like, he's still in his bubble, but
Yeah,
it's
what else
cooler.
matters?
It's just a cooler bubble.
So the next segment here, page 58. I love this header illustration. It is someone I feel like this is somebody like pretending to draw, kind of like a kid, like a little kid. It is a drawing of Sanji in his like classic Baratier like suit, but he is holding a gun and he is shooting a bullet, which is making a smoke trail that causes the SBS to be written, kind of SBS, to be displayed in the air. So many questions about this.
He can bend the bullet, you know.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I didn't know he was doing that, but maybe season 2 of the live action show, we'll see Sanji shooting a gun. Our first question here is about Cypher Poll. So we've seen Rob Lucci and the other CP9 members get promoted to CP0, but not Jabra, Fukuro, and Kumadori. Are they part of CP0 too? And Oda says, yes, if you saw One Piece film Red, you will know that Bluno and Khalifa are members of CP0 as well. Yes, all the past CP9 members are now in CP0. However, the members of CP0 who have the masks, who include Lucci, Kaku, and Stussy, are known as the Masked Killers, and they are given more special duties, special missions than the others. So I guess that's why we see them, but not the other former CP9 members.
Fukuro does the paperwork.
Yeah. I mean, those three are definitely like the busters of the group, so I'm not surprised that they're not out doing the elite stuff.
Oda really just
The
said,
biggest
"Watch my
dorks,
movie."
at least. Bigger dorks than Kaku.
Yeah. Kaku's just over the line. He just got in.
Yeah.
So the next question is, I want to eat rice balls that were squeezed by Robin's beautiful hands.
Me too.
And Oda says, yeah, so
Help.
do I.
Heard.
And
Succinct.
and the next postcard comes from someone who just says, I totally agree. And Oda's like, wow, that's interesting. And it takes a lot of guts to submit a letter like that and have no idea how I'm going to put that into this volume. So props to you. And the final question here. This is kind of an interesting one because I think there was a lot of controversy about this, both in the SBS and when it happened in the manga. So this is about little baby Hancock S Snake's love mellow, the mellow powers. So the question is, when little girl Hancock does her love mellow, that would be the Viz version, when she does that attack and turns you into stone, will other people accuse you of being a creeper? In Japanese, he uses the word lolicon here. They won't, will they? Right? Like, please, tell me I'm safe. Tell me I'm still safe.
Oh my God.
And that comes from Yamaguchi One Piece Theory Club. And Oda's very tactful response here is, so the powers work by leaving people vulnerable whenever they feel that the user is cute or pretty. Well, everyone thinks babies and little kids are cute, right? So that's all it takes for the powers to turn you into stone. So if one of the people who got petrified happened to be a creeper, nobody would be able to tell that was the actual reason why. So nobody will know that you are a creep, but have fun getting turned into stone anyways. So
That was a little savage.
yeah, basically, yeah, he cuts that guy down pretty well. I think there was a lot. I remember people talking about this when she used the power on like the Marine or the agents or whoever, and was like, they're all pedos or something. And personally, I was always of the opinion like, I thought that it was pretty obvious that like it just works on if you find them cute or not. It doesn't have to be like an attraction thing. It's just like, she's so sweet. And so that always made sense to me. I was a little taken aback by some of the accusations that people were making, but I thought this was a pretty funny way to address that.
Yeah, a little clarification.
Right. Let's see. Next one on page 76. We have a header illustration of Pythagoras, who is looking at, I'm not sure what this is supposed to be. I guess it's just like is it a star map or a sea chart or something like that. It looks like a Dragon Ball radar.
The zodiac signs.
And he's connecting the dots here to make an S, and then there's a B and an S on the console and on his antenna. So that's an interesting one.
It's very cute.
Yeah. So the first question is actually kind of gross here. So I don't know if anybody here has ever eaten natto, the famous fermented soybean, one of the national delicacies of Japan.
It's breakfast for old people.
Okay, but
is.
as you said that, I was like, I kind of like it.
That's really cool.
But I'm an old man, so that kind of tracks.
Sure. So the comment here is, the next time you eat a package of natto, so just for people who have not seen this, like the way that you buy it from the store, if you don't make it yourself or whatever, like the instant natto is like in a plastic container, and there's like a film on top, and after you cook it or whatever. And so the comment here is, the next time you eat a package of natto, pull the plastic film directly upward, and the sticky strings, like the goop that is, that the beans are in, will recreate the scene of the destruction of Lucia in chapter 1060. So you have this helpful illustration of the lasers. Yeah. It reminds me of another manga scene, but I will not refer to that one. I don't want to gross anyone out. But yeah, it's plenty. It is kind of a shock the first time you see natto or you try natto, because they're super sticky, and that's kind of what they look like. They leave these like filmy little strings on everything, and Oda's like, yes, they do look like. That does look like those mysterious beams of light we saw in that scene. The way that they stretch, and he's like, knock it off. He's like, people died, okay? It's not funny. Yeah. And our next comment is about Marine Base G14. So when we see the base in the following chapter, 1061, when we saw all of the Punk Hazard kids and Vice Admiral Dahl and everything. So I couldn't help but notice that when we see the exterior shot of the base, that there are like balloon-looking things on the edge of the base. Did someone attach balloons there for fun? And Oda says, yes, they are balloons. Base G14 is close to Egghead. So the kids that we saw in Punk Hazard when they were taking them off to see Vegapunk, Dr. Bigapants, as they called him, they took them to G14, which is where they've been getting treatment for their gigantification ever since. And because it's a Navy base, so it's just a big, ugly, very brutalist building here. That's my commentary. Vice Admiral Dahl had the balloons attached to make them a little bit more appealing and friendly to the children. Mm-hmm. So yes, that's where they're hanging out right now.
Yeah, they whimsy up the place. I get it.
Yeah. And our last comment here is about, this is one that I don't think really translates into English. It is about Marco. The person says, Oda Sensei, I want to be friends with Marco the Phoenix. Can you ask Marco if that's cool or not? And so
who asked this question?
They got my question.
Yeah, listen up, Brodsky.
It is from pen name Once a Friend. The Oda's response is, "Okay, Marco, what do you say?" And so he basically says like it's cool, but the way he says that in Japanese is "yoi," which is like his little catchphrase thing that he says at the end of all of his sentences. He's like blah 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 yoi, and which also can mean good if it's taken on its own. So Oda kind of like takes his catchphrase and turns it into an actual answer to the question. Incidentally, that was kind of like the thing that was a source of controversy on the podcast all those years ago, Ed, if you remember that, in Marineford, when Marco, like you guys initially had assumed that Marco was like very flippant or like very kind of callous to everyone else, and it was because there was a specific line where like the scanlators at the time were just they would just translate it as good, like whenever he said that at the end of his sentences. And so it was something where like someone else was taking care, somebody else was fighting someone or something like that. And so he's like, oh, I guess I don't need to worry about that. And so they had translated it as like, oh, I guess I don't need to do any work. Good. And it had made him come across like he was very, very much like not trying to do anything in Marineford. Yeah. And I think that was
I should
that
see
was
the
maybe
look
part
on my face right now.
I think that was part of the reason why he got stuck with the Butters voice in all those old manga recaps.
Yeah, some regrets.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, Steven, when you're translating Marco, when you get to that quirk, does it like change the meaning of his sentence generally, or is it just sort of like a touch at the end of his thoughts?
It's just like a little catchphrase thingy that he does that makes him sound like it gives him a little distinctive air that Oda thought would be fun to do, I think, and makes him stand out when you hear his or you see his lines of dialogue on the page and stuff.
Yeah. This is why I don't like to personally thank you, Stephen, for fixing that.
For saving Marco.
For coming to his honor. It's I don't think it's something that has ever really been translated in the manga, at least. I'm not sure if the anime subtitles ever did anything for him, but it's one of those things that's like it's so subtle and small that it's like really not worth like going out of our way to give him a little quirk. So
sure.
It's just kind of one of those things. But if we move on to the next SBS segment, let's see, this is page 112. This one has a header of Bonnie accosting a little baby Vegapunk when she made him spit out all of his stars, I guess. She's angry at him. And the first question here is about the cooking machine. It's the Jetsons, the automated cooking machine here that we saw, and they're pointing out that if you look very closely at the machine in the background, you can see buttons that say east, west, south, and north. So all the cardinal directions are those for like seasonings for the different regions of the world. And what kind of flavoring or what kind of special touches do they have? And Oda says, okay, so actually, if you look at this, you can see that there's all these little circle icons all around the machine. And there's a lot of them, but there are not 500, which is the number of dishes that the machine can make. So that's because if you press east, for example, it will change all of the icons to dishes from the east blue. And then if you press west, south, or north, it will switch to the menus for all of the different regions of the world. And this machine of dreams can make them all. So, that's how it works. I'm not sure if there's you can't see
culture of the Grand Line, I guess.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's probably plenty of good stuff on the Grand Line, but you can't see it on this little illustration that they use because he kind of goes behind the character and they kind of blur it out.
I really love just like a small detail like that where it's like he has he kind of thought it through for this like machine in the background.
Yeah, it's super cute.
Just for this like silly gag. next comment here is so in the SBS for volume 105, this is kind of a follow-up to something that we saw last time. Oda, you mentioned how you will draw cleavage shots, but you don't draw panty shots. And yet, since starting the Egghead arc, I can't help but notice a drastic increase in butt-centric angles. Did you do this specifically for me, knowing that I'm a butt man?
Listen.
I swear to God.
So Oda explains, so for the Future Island arc, I wanted to accentuate a stark difference from modern day fashion standards. And so the idea that I wound up with was designs that really show off the butt. And since I haven't drawn any panty shots before, I realized that I wasn't really good at drawing butts. So I've been studying how to draw them more sexy, and I think I've gotten a lot better at it. It started being fun to me, so now I'm drawing more butt angles. Drawing is fun.
I just can't.
This is very George Lucas. They don't wear underwear in space.
Right.
I think I have tears in my eyes right now because it's just the way I'm just thinking about this. I'm just being like, not only will he give, because he's always given us, the man titties as well. So I'm like, well, we get, we have Zoro in the tight pants. For me and Josh specifically, can we get that, Oda? I'm asking for the people.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm fine with more of these, like, kind of cool dynamic upshots that are apparently ass-centric.
Yeah.
As long as we get a good mix of gender in there.
But you know what?
I mean,
Chase your bliss.
Steve already started him on the right path by drawing Zoro with Robin's outfit.
Absolutely.
For
He did.
Absolutely.
We just need Oda to get on board here. Yeah, it is funny that he admits it too, especially after what was it? I think it was the one with Lilith specifically, where he drew with just like this really big dumper, and I feel like people just really went off on that one.
Let the man have some fun. It's 1,000 chapters in. Let him draw ass. We have so much tits in this series.
Right.
It is true. Yeah.
The killer
It's
couldn't be
unavoidable.
carrying the arc until it was a chapter 1,000. Like, he needs to now give everyone a butt.
Yeah. All right. Next one. Oh boy, this one. All right. Next SBS. First of all, our header is from the person, the guy who always specializes in the very wholesome ones. We have kind of like the pencil drawing of Vegapunk and Chopper, and a little mini Pythagoras, just his head, along with a very wistful-looking Bartholomew Kuma, or I guess it could be Kuma or it could be a Pacifista. And there's also a little Edison in the corner. And the first question here is Odachi. He's like, isn't anyone else going to ask what Brooke's future will look like? As a fan of afros, I take offense to this. Odachi, please show us the vast possibilities of a skeleton with an afro. And Oda says, okay, sure. And he just draws this little picture of Brooke, a little cartoony version of him with just a ×4, and in parentheses, 20 years later, 40 years later, and bad future 20 years later and 40 years later.
When you've got a hairstyle that works, why mix it up?
Why change?
Yeah, I guess. He can't really do anything to change it. It's pretty much stuck there. So Brooke's gonna look the same no matter what. That's the takeaway here. It is funny because it's like, on the one hand, I would love to see what sort of gags Oda could come up with, but on the other hand, this is also a very good gag to just like take the lazy way out. Our next question. Now this is a very special one here, and I'm glad that we have the present company for this one. So this is referring to the little cat, the little assist tabby, as I translated it, which was this basically came about as a kind of literal follow-up to Oda's the way that he described the satellites for Vegapunk, which was that he called them satellites, but he uses the kanji for cats, and it's because there's a saying in Japanese, there's an idiom that's like, you're so busy, you will even ask the cats for help, because cats are notoriously unhelpful animals, and so if you're desperate enough, you will even attempt to get a cat to help out. And so that was kind of the how Oda paraphrased or characterized Vegapunk's decision to create the satellites, these 6 kind of alter egos or versions of himself, just to help out and do more work. And so he also literally drew the cat in that one scene. And so this person wrote in to say, please tell us the name of the cat assistant who appears in that one panel in chapter 1065. Now, in that scene, I called him the assist tabby as like a way to kind of explain that joke, just to kind of like add a little fun bit of wordplay. But that didn't necessarily appear in the Japanese because it's like, it's a literal example of the idiom. So the Japanese readers would understand what Oda was doing with that there. But Oda has a little fun here. And so he describes the assist tabby as Joshu Neko, which is Joshu is the word for assistant. It literally means like assisting or secondary, and then hand or helper. So Joshu Neko. And he says, "Oh, you mean Josh, the Joshu Neko?" So it's literally that's his name. Josh the assist tabby. That's him. He just loves helping people out. When you need to jot down a note, he's there with a pen and a piece of paper. Some people say he can even use color of observation hockey, and he will even scratch your back when you've got an itch.
I just think this is the best character in One Piece.
I almost screamed when I saw that. I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. Because I literally I don't have to stretch for that at all. Like, it's literally what he wrote there. So Josh the Joshu.
Josh is actually in One Piece.
Yep, there he is.
I was about to say when we flipped to this page, I was like, that cat drawing is so cute, and I'm on the, when we're talking, I'm always like, oh, that's me, and I was very close to saying that. So,
if only. Last one here, and this is actually very timely because I believe we pretty much saw this play out in the last chapter or two in the manga itself. But this is the SBS about Sentomaru and Vegapunk. So in chapter 1069, when Vegapunk and Sentomaru are talking, there's a little bit of dialogue where Vegapunk, when he's putting pressure on Sentomaru to help him, he describes himself as the man who took you in and saved your life. So what kind of background do they have together? And so Oda explains, the Navy received a message that wild bears were ransacking a settlement on a certain island. Vegapunk joined the dispatch force to help set up their bear repelling system. Of course, we saw this with Kizaru in the little flashback. As they surveyed the dangerous terrain, the Navy witnessed a young Sentomaru defeating the bears in a sumo wrestling bout to become the king of the mountain. He was so violent as a young boy that the people of his village kicked him out, and Vegapunk was so drawn to the strength of this young and constantly starving boy that he hired him to be a bodyguard, and the rest is history. So, pretty much what we saw in that flashback, but it's nice that he was able to discuss it and then found a way to work that into the manga itself.
Yeah, it's actually very perfect timing for that.
Yeah. And I think we have one more SBS segment here. This last one comes from, I Heart OP, and it is a picture of Edison, and he is flying. He's running away, it seems like, from Josh, the assist tabby. There he is.
Just your little laugh there.
Yeah. I've got a new icon for all my socials with this header.
Nice. And let's see. First question here is about Ryokugyu. This is a good question. It's a good poll. I figured it out about Ryokugyu. So back in chapter 905, he said, "I haven't had a bite to eat for 3 damn years." Is this because Ryokugyu is a forest, plant, a forest man, and can use photosynthesis to get his nutrients without physically eating any food? And Oda's like, "Yep, that's right." So that mystery solved, I guess.
He just said nailed it.
I'm sure.
Yeah, it's not much of a sacrifice after all.
Yeah, got it in one. There you go.
Yeah, there were probably people who put that together after we saw his powers, but I did not think of that, or I didn't even think of the old scene after we saw him. But it's cool. The next question, also about Ryokugyu, is about his chest tattoo, and he has the tattoo that says "Double Suicide at Death River," or Shikawa Shinju. And the question is asking, does that tattoo on Aramaki's chest refer to the actor Yoshio Harada, who is his model? Does that refer to his song "Double Suicide in Shinjuku"? So that would have been Shinjuku Shinju. So I guess he did he had some singing, some musical aspects to his career too. And Oda says, yes, he did have a song with that title, but no, as a matter of fact, there is a classic Rakugo story called Double Suicide in Shinagawa, which is what I was paying homage to. Double suicides are often of ill-fated lovers, and Aramaki does seem to have some tragic background revolving around women, so it would seem that this tattoo refers to that.
We had a full story time on the tattoo.
I mean that's the hardest tattoo I ever heard of.
It's pretty badass. I can't tell from Oda's answer if he's like, stay tuned, we'll find out, or if he's just like, yeah, some people have history, and whether he'll leave it at that or not. But I'm sure we'll see more of Ryokugyu. The next question is about the forms of justice of the admirals. So what is Ryokugyu's form of justice? What is his justice? He does seem to have some very intense ideals, so I'm very curious to know. And it explains that Ryokugyu observes justice if it kills me. And he says, I know that people were curious about Fujitora's form of justice too. Now, we thought it was going to be blind justice, right? I think we said that the whole time.
Yeah.
So Oda says, I will say that Fujitora follows virtuous justice, or in Japanese, jingi aruseigi, which is, kind of like the code of honor. So that would line up with his kind of general air of being sort of like the gambler tropes that he uses, which lines up with the sort of Yakuza style. And Jingi is very much like a Yakuza code of honor. So.
Well, you remember the Jingi Night Time Omake special?
Yes, yeah. Oda loves it, so I'm not surprised to see it come up here. And our last question for the SBS in this volume is in chapter 1074. There's a scene where in the background, when we see all of the Straw Hats and the CP0 members after Stussy kind of betrays them, we have a scene where we can see Nami is clearly yelling at or scolding Lucci while Robin tries to calm her down. What's the deal there? What sort of a conversation were they having? And Oda's like, wow, that's a very minor detail to spot. Lucci, of course, was the toughest antagonist in the Ennius Lobby arc, where he was tormenting Robin, and Nami is saying, "You won't mess with Robin again if I have anything to say about it." And Robin is saying like, "Easy, he's defenseless right now." So she's holding her back.
No, let her cook.
Hold me back, Robin.
That is it for the SBS in this volume. There was some interesting stuff in this one.
I meant when I was like flipping through and I saw Marco, I was like sitting here just like waiting. I'm like, what does it say?
Yeah, great news for you on that front, Brodsky.
Yeah, Marco and Josh. This is great.
You two can be friends with Marco.
Listen, the only have to have is like the next SBS has to have involve something with Hongo, and me and Josh just keep winning.
Wow. Maybe we'll see it. I don't know. I mean, it ends with Shanks getting ready for battle, so maybe there will be a theme there.
I should start submitting questions.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of questions you could ask about him.
I still, if I could submit one, I still have one question that's been on my mind since I started reading One Piece, and I'm always being like, I should just submit it. But it literally, like, if I had to say it, it'd be, I need to know how the sword ate the elephant fruit. I need to know. I can't sleep. My crops are dying. My children are starving. Please.
I bet it's like Spandam was going to eat the fruit and he used the sword to like cut it. Like he's like, all right, I'm just gonna cut it in two and
wasn't there something
cut
with
myself a slice
Vegapunk
here.
though? I think it had something to do with Vegapunk.
Vegapunk came up with the technique for having like guns eat things. Well,
like inanimate
it
objects
started back
eat
with
things.
Lasso. Yeah, the
Yeah,
first
yeah,
one was Lasso.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like a merging technique of like the fruit
But
and
we're
the
coming
inanimate
full
object.
circle now that we're back at Vegapunk, so I need to know how this man made inanimate objects eat fruit.
Yeah, it's either that or like he did like the fly thing where he just puts them into two separate chambers and then they get fused or something.
Yeah.
Something like that.
One day.
Anyways.
All right, shall we move on to the next segment?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, thanks guys. Thanks for
Yes.
hanging out with me.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steven.
I always enjoy Steven's story time.
Hey, it's time for the SGS. That means Simba is here. That means Greg is here.
That's me. And that means
Steven is here.
yay.
Yeah. It's been a little while. I think we missed a couple opportunities to do our little 2-person segment here, talking about stuff. It's been a very busy summer. If people were not aware, I think we kind of paused for some of the Gear 5 anime celebrations. That was a big thing that happened. And then more recently, we've had another big thing that came up, which of course is what we're probably going to talk about more today. And that is the Netflix One Piece live action, dropped just a week ago. And I think it would be an understatement to say it is setting everything on fire. The response has been tremendous, I think. I expected a big reaction, but I think it has wildly surpassed, I think, everybody's hopes for the viewership and fan excitement and all that stuff.
Basically, sorry we couldn't talk about One Piece. We were too busy talking about One Piece.
Yeah, pretty much. And I think for that reason, we're probably just gonna skip over, talking about the manga and whatever is newest in the story, because this is definitely a momentous occasion here. And not just because, hey, there's a new adaptation of One Piece, long awaited. It is finally out. Everyone has seen it. But in particular, here, you dropped the news on Twitter. In fact, you had quite a preamble to this. I think you wrote your entire life story in a series of tweets before
My entire nerd life story. Yeah.
Your nerd life story. Yeah, that's true. Before dropping your news that you've been, I would not say that you have been particularly good at hiding this. You've definitely been leaving lots of hints for people who were paying attention. But you finally got to tell the world that you were what did you call it? Series advisor?
Yes.
For the Netflix series. And I'm so fascinated by it. First of all, congratulations on
Thank you.
getting the job, getting through the ordeal, much of which was, I believe, laid out in your nerd story. And I'm just so curious. So when you say series advisor, and you could be as general or as specific as you want, or you feel you can be, what does that entail in this case? What were you doing in that role?
Wow. I have done many things during the role, and there have been changes throughout from the start to now, and even ongoing. Some of the responsibilities are floating all over the place. I have done everything from translate for Oda during meetings with Netflix, which is absolutely no pressure. to to being a go-between between the studio, Tomorrow Studio, and Oda, since before even writers were involved, like over a year before writers were even involved.
So would that have been like with Marty Adelstein? I remember he was, immediately brought up as soon as they announced the whole thing coming together.
Yes. Yeah. When they first, and also just to preface this in general is, there are things that I have to be non-specific about, which is frustrating. As a listener, I do apologize for that, but I'm sure you can understand that there is a level of professionalism that I need to keep to it, just due to contracts and whatnot. But yes, Marty Adelstein was one of the first, and there's another fellow. He's actually in the credits, Nick Louie, and Nick is actually the man with the plan. I mean, Marty Adelstein is the one who makes everything happen. He's the one who says go, and everybody, on the production side goes, works, does. And he also knows the people in the industry, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, that's what his job is. However, the person who was like, One Piece is amazing and we need to do this, before even I was involved, is this Nick fellow. And Nick is super One Piece savvy. I mean, I can talk to him like I'm talking to basically anybody on the podcast. And he works with the production studio, and he's the one who got everybody involved in it, knowledgeable about it, who made people fans of it, on the production side. Writing side and Netflix side, completely different story, different issues. I'm really not able to talk too much about the Netflix side, but more the production side, which I've worked with since the beginning. But it turns out that he was college roommates with one of my friends from Arlong Park, the forums. Like, complete coincidence.
Wow.
And he that fellow actually lives over here in Japan, and I'd known him, and we've gone back and forth quite a bit. So I mean, really, really weird triangle of relationship there. But I mean, that's just this kind of a level of fan of this guy. But
very cool.
We had a lot of discussions at the early start, like who we'd want to be, for certain roles, and a lot of it is just fan talk, because I don't make any of those decisions for casting or anything, but we do float ideas. And in the early stages, it was kind of like what if or who and how, and then over time, like I said, became more of like translating was a part of it. I was never the main translator. There was always a professional, like, who dealt with like Hollywood people who would come over and do translation services, like for Sylvester Stallone and stuff. Amazing. And less translation, more interpretation. Interpreters, which is very, very different. I don't know if anybody listening realized, but translation and interpretation, totally different mindsets.
Yes.
Very different arts. But I have all the respect in the world for interpreters. It is not easy. And I think that's pretty much going through the early stages. The later stages responsibilities would have been
just
more.
Just before you continue, I do want to go back and just for people that may not have realized, or just kind of like the Hollywood 101 or whatever, is when you say production or Tomorrow Studios, that's the company that actually did the work. That they were the ones who made the show. Netflix is like not the parent company, but they're the ones who air the show. But Netflix itself is not like involved in the day-to-day like decision making of how to make the show, right?
Yes and no. It's true on both sides. They have a say. They have a word in how things should and could play out.
Mm-hmm.
The same as the production studio, and also same as the writers. They all have, and of course, Shueisha and Oda. All of these factors have a say in what happens and how things, quote unquote, should happen for the audience. And it is because of that this took 6 years, or actually, 7 from inception, 6 from when I got involved in 2017.
Right, because of course it had to have been in motion for them to have announced it in 2017.
Yeah. There were some, I cannot say this, but like there were some crazy names, like names that people know who were involved, who wanted to be involved with the production side. And I've heard stories about some some video was shot and some had major production quality, and by these big names from Hollywood, and Tomorrow won with the heartfelt PowerPoint that included the X scene. So it's
wow.
Shueisha definitely knew what they were going for. And like I said, a lot of that is thanks to the people on the team who have this deep, long-seated passion for the series. Basically, production, as you said, though, they're the people who are like, we want this team to do this, we want this team to do this. Here's where we're going to do it. All right, everybody's in position. Go. That's what they'll take care of.
Okay, so you were about to say more, after the initial stages.
Okay.
What changed after that point?
Yeah, so after the initial stages, and we started, this person's going to be the writer, and started looking at, distributors, such as Netflix. Like Netflix wasn't even in the equation at the time, but it was looking at drafts. And it's tough for me to get into drafts, just kind of speak broadly about it, but normally you don't, as an advisor, have access to drafts. You usually only start seeing things, in later developed script stages. But thanks to that, we were able to discuss many ideas and directions and motivations for the series and the characters. That helped ground them in Oda's world, and that was quite a pleasure to be able to do, and was able to work very well with the team. And from there, it was just a very long. There was a majority of that was this stage back and forth about what this character would do, what that character would do, how to portray this, how to portray that, and that's basically what it was for years, without getting into specifics. But it was very, very, I would say, intense in some cases. Discussions about what certain things meant to certain characters and how to portray them, that would be best understood and appreciated by a general audience and fans who've loved the series for a long time.
And I think that probably explains as much as anything, why it's not like a normal movie where you're like, okay, here's what our new characters are going to be, and here's the type of people we want to cast, and then we're going to write it up, and then boom, here we go. There's so much emotional and personal investment in who the characters are and how the story works and everything that you have to grapple with. That, yes, I can easily imagine just getting everybody on the same page and agreeing how they should be handled is super important when you're adapting this, this gigantic story. It's not like any other type of production.
What's hilarious to me is that, as you say, getting everybody on the same page, we're still not on the same page. There are still major differences. I mean, respect for the series, respect for the characters is in everybody's mind, at the forefront of everybody's mind. But you know, how we feel about this, and this is I mean, obviously true. I mean, when you're writing a fanfic, you know, you can have 100 people view the same character 100 different ways. And of course that is the case. That's how it is. We all have different things that we feel about the characters. We feel about Oda's world and stories, and we want to make them stand out in certain ways. Now, at the forefront of that is and should always be Oda. You know, what does he want? How does he want it portrayed and done? And I think they've been very good in the past few years about respecting his vision for it.
I got the impression that he was pretty hands-on. Like he was not just content to sit there and say like, okay, interesting, go ahead, make this thing. I think, it sounded like he was very active in offering feedback and putting his opinion out there among the staff.
So there were I think maybe 24 hours or so after I put out the tweet, and it was like, I am the One Piece live action series advisor. There was somebody, some huckster out there who said, who quote retweeted that and said, "Look, proof that Oda wasn't involved." And it's just like, how? I don't know. Where is the connection there? But no, not the case at all. Oda has, and again, this is one of the things that, like, Greg, you can't be specific about, what Oda has and hasn't done or hasn't said, blah, blah, blah. And I'll absolutely maintain that and protect that. But I mean, if you're asking whether or not Oda was deeply involved in this, oh my God, absolutely, 100%. No question about it whatsoever. Oh my God, some people like Greg's in damage control. There's no damage control. It's Oda is deeply involved in this. I mean, he's at the table. I've sat at the table with him having these discussions, countless Zoom discussions during Corona and whatnot, when we couldn't go back and forth. Tons and tons of work put into the series. So be rest assured, his involvement is 100%.
Very cool. It's nice to get that out there, just because I think most people believed, or they had reason to think that yes, he was offering his feedback and his thoughts at just about every step of the way. But it's nice to have somebody just point out the obvious, that yes, that is the case. He was.
I do wish that I could get into specifics, but I'm sorry.
Yeah,
but yes,
totally fair.
Very deeply, passionately involved in the project.
Very cool. Was there anything else that you did that was like particularly interesting to talk about or to mention here?
I think really some of the coolest work was on the draft. Going back and forth, because there are scenes in the show that are just like, whoa, that's like based off of my notes, or like that's that entire idea came from a suggestion. I do feel comfortable saying that even I was able to consult Steven on certain lines in the show.
Yes, and now that Greg has said it, I will admit, yes, he did ask me for my thoughts on one or two things. Yeah.
And the show is better for it, and it's reflected in the final material, which is really important to me. That to have that kind of impact on the show, and that even though I can't get into specifics, that someone who, like Steven, who understands the characters far better than I do in what they say, and has a much better understanding of the nuance in what they say and how to portray it, because of his knowledge as a translator who's been working with these characters for over 2 decades. to be able, to work with him and, not that I was like, hey, let me divulge the secrets of the series, but like, hey, look at this line. Like, how do we do this line that makes this character in English? How do we do this in a way that makes sense and doesn't sound corny? And I think what you came up with and what I was able to submit, whew, I think it absolutely was the best possible iteration of what could have happened. And looking at fan responses to that part in particular, seems to have been the correct choice. So I'm really thank you for being there for me for that.
It's yeah. I mean, it was kind of a rush. It was just like, quick, give me an idea. And I was just like, but it's it's good to know that it helped. That's the main thing. Whether or not whatever I said, I don't even remember what I said, but you had let me know that it was that it did come in handy. So it's good to know that sort of thing. Yeah, I'm not sure if you have any last thoughts before we get into fan questions. You did, since you mentioned that publicly, we did get lots of good questions. We've had a stockpile, and so we were definitely intending to focus on the fan questions this time around, and so we will definitely get some more fan questions about working on the live action in general. So, any last general thoughts before we get into answering stuff?
Yeah, let's just move along to the questions, because the more I talk, kind of free talk, the more I'm likely to get myself in trouble. So
okay, all right, good thinking there. All right, so yeah, as we said, it has been a little while since we did the fan questions. It's been a little while since we just recorded in general. So I am going to start with the Patreon section on our Discord. For patrons. That's our little SGS channel. And so I am going to go back. We'll try to do these briefly, just because, I do think that, the timing being what it is, people are probably most interested in the live action questions, but I do want to not have these older questions be forgotten. So
yeah.
Let's see how quickly we can get through these. I believe the first one here, okay, this is July 4th, which I believe was just after our last one came out. So I will start here with Narthon, who says, good morning. Can anyone explain the hard-boiled thing? I've started reading Sakamoto Days, which is another Jump series, and it comes up frequently. I first saw it with Senior Pink, of course. Is it just related to noir detective characters and how they act? Thank you. Hard-boiled... I mean, that's a term in English. Like, it is not an unknown thing, but I would say that I do think it has a very specific connotation in Japanese, because they, it is literally, they say hard boiled. It is a loan word. Yeah, it's pretty much what you said. It is related to noir. It is related to a certain type of attitude or presentation,
kind of the devil may care.
Yeah. Noir in the sense of like being like, oh, it's a cold, dark world, and I'm just trying to get by, and guys who spend their evenings in smoky bars taking drinks and dealing with dames and stuff like that. That is very much the stereotype that Japan uses that term for hard-boiled.
That's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Yeah, like hardcore.
It's tough guys who don't have a care in the world, about anything about than what's right, and they might be anti-hero, right? But like they have a code, and they live by that code, and they don't give a crap what anybody else thinks about that code. They do it. It's who they are. And
if they break the code, then it has tragic consequences, and they realize, oh, that's where I made my mistake. I never should have trusted her, or, all that sort of stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
but like you said, it is a loan word, so that it's kind of weird to say. Whoa, ha the boirudo.
Yeah. And because it's a loan word,
it's old, isn't it? It's kind of it's not.
Oh
like,
yeah, well yeah, noir novels are from like the 40s, like the Philip Marlowe books. That's where the 30s and 40s. But I think also because it's a loan word, it only means this specific thing in Japanese, whereas in English you're like, oh, like hard-boiled eggs, like you have to understand from context that that's what you're talking about. In Japan, that's the only thing that hard-boiled means is these cool guys.
I'm pretty sure they closely associate it with like the toughness that you see in the literal Chow Yun-fat movie Hard Boiled. I mean, I think that's where a lot of it comes from. So.
Sure, could very well be. Yeah. Our next comment. Okay, so I believe we were talking about we answered a question about Rakugo last time, because we were talking about Akane Banashi and Oda's interest in Rakugo and stuff. And you had said something. So here, Pongzilla attached a video here, which of course you can't see on this podcast, but it is of Diane Kichijitsu, who is the Rakugo performer Greg mentioned from the 5th grade textbook. She is a British woman who lives in Osaka. It's really impressive that as a foreigner and woman, she is so popular. I wanted to post a pic from the textbook, but I'm afraid of Japanese copyright laws. Well, you're safe here because we can't post it anyways. Audio format. So yes, Diane Kichijitsu. I believe that is the person you mentioned in your textbook.
Yes, that is correct. Yes, that's right. I remember she has the first name, and she kept her first name and as her performing name, and took on a last. I don't know if it's her married name or a performing name. They often performers here take on names.
That's right.
But yes, that does sound familiar, and that's definitely her.
Cool. Yeah. All right. There you go, Diane Kichijitsu. So check her out. I'm sure you can find her on YouTube. All right. Well, moving on. Next, King of the Kingdom of Denial says, ahoy, Stephen and Greg. Do you have any theories of your own about the origins of Zunisha, their connection to Joy Boy, and how they came to be bound to wandering the sea?
Oh boy. This is something I discussed, I don't know, probably with the podcast.
I think you did.
In depth, like years ago. But basically my idea was that there was or is a herd of elephants like Zunisha.
Sure.
They wandered the world due to their legs being, rearing up or whatnot, or how, I'm not entirely sure how it could be done, but they do have legs that seem long enough to accomplish the task of possibly standing atop and then crossing red line, where they, if they were to rear up on their back legs, I am not entirely, certain if Oda wants to go that route or not, but like, if that's the case, then the shadow that we see in Thriller at the end of Thriller Bark actually lines up perfectly with the legs of Zunisha that when we first see Zoe. So either that, or you can look at it as separate shadows, as many people do, instead of a perspective. But
that's right. I remember you talking about that. That's been a pet theory of yours.
Basically, I do believe that they were kind of, I don't know, maybe pets or
animal companions.
Animal companions of Joy Boy. Like it'd be interesting if I think Joy Boy rode it at one point, or was able to expand his body to the extent where he would actually be a proper rider for it. Being from a quote unquote giant kingdom, it's quite detailed. We could talk about this for like literally a half an hour. But I think that's a good catch up for people that aren't familiar with some of my thoughts on Zunisha.
Yeah, I think I don't know if I necessarily. I think there's enough kind of circumstantial evidence to work with this what I'm about to say. But I know some people have mentioned this because it's popping into my head of given the recent chapters referring to not just Zunisha but also to finding out about Nefertari Lily and some of the I guess like echoes or the similarities between Lily's story, of making a mistake, supposedly as Emu said, and Zunisha's claim that she made a mistake or that he made a mistake, and so that there are possibly parallels there. That I don't know. It sounded like maybe Zunisha was Lily, like transformed, like as though that was like a punishment or something. I'm not sure. There's a lot that would have to go in between there to explain how that would happen, but it does seem like there's some measure of resonance between those things, which I guess I will be curious to watch out for.
That's interesting.
More info
that you bring up the mistake, because I'd forgotten to address that, but like that in and of itself, the moment I read that, I was like, okay, Oda tragedy, coming in 3 to however many years, but. Yes, that mistake is what is it going to be based on? It's probably related to Joy Boy, correct? I mean that's pretty much a given. In some shape or form, it's related to Joy Boy, and we also have Joy Boy apologizing via the poneglyph. So somebody has betrayed somebody, or somebody lied to somebody, and it put probably Joy Boy in a position to put Zunisha in a position that it could be very, very sad, in terms of destruction, in terms of who. I mean, I don't want to say that Joy Boy set Zunisha on a path of destruction, but it seems to be. I mean, if he's taking the opportunity of the poneglyph, to say I'm sorry, it was probably something devastating. That he and possibly Zunisha enacted together, perhaps mistakenly, perhaps knowingly, perhaps having false information that was planted, similar to a Sakazuki kind of plot. He's actually betraying you the entire time. He was trying to defend Ace. That kind of thing. I do believe we're in store for something of that nature.
Mm-hmm. Yes. It seems very likely at this point. All right, here we go. What did we just say about Hard Boiled? We have a response to the previous question about Hard Boiled from Usopp the Great, who says, think if American film noir and Hong Kong police films had a baby, with an IMDb link to 1992's John Woo film Hard Boiled, starring Chow Yun Fat. Boom. There you go.
All right. I like it.
Okay.
Reading my mind from last month.
That's right.
Good on you.
Okay, next question. Sheepman says, howdy SGS. I constantly think about what will be discovered on Laugh Tale, and more specifically, the Straw Hats' reactions. Rayleigh stated that they might find a different answer than they had found on Roger's trip there. As we all found out during the Oden flashback, they laughed in that iconic chapter. Whatever is discovered, I believe Luffy and the crew won't laugh, different answer, due to knowing the full ramifications the world may face due to being present for them, versus Roger and his crew being too early to be able to do anything about them. Any thoughts about that?
Wow. Good question. I cannot see Oda avoiding the opportunity to draw various emotions on the crew members, depending on what it means to each of them. Like I can see Luffy, for example, I could see Luffy laughing his heart out.
Sure.
Frankie crying. Nami, possibly crying as well. Sanji kind of doing that great Sanji wide open eyed, cigarette half dangling out of the mouth kind of look.
Yeah.
Zoro looking exactly like Zoro from any other chapter. Basically, how could he draw the Straw Hats in a interesting way that doesn't necessarily need to be exactly the same as Roger, because you think about it, Roger laughed, right? And we don't know that Shanks's reaction of tears. We don't know that that's necessarily to whatever Roger saw. But it does tell us that there could be a myriad of reactions depending on what it means to the person at the time and what they know about the world. That's basically what it is how much do you know about the world at that point, and what does it mean to the people who found it? Because what were they hoping for? What did they want? What did Shanks want out of it?
Yeah, and I think it's just a general kind of pattern of Oda's that unless he's doing like an extreme like sort of gag reaction where like people's eyes are bugging out, whenever he has a big moment where there are many characters present, like you always know he's going to find some way to vary. He doesn't want to just draw everyone with the exact same expression on their face. He's going to find some way to vary it up and to give you kind of multiple angles of how, how someone might feel about what they're seeing. So I definitely agree that's probably pretty likely that we'll see, different reactions from different Straw Hats. Interesting question. I like that one. Enzel says, hey, SGS, a big fan of all the insight this segment provides. I know you've both talked a lot about learning Japanese and the process for that, but I had a different question. How would you recommend someone who hopes to one day visit Japan prepare for the trip? Are there any resources, things with language barriers for an English speaker, places that you must go, especially as a big OP fan, etc., that you could comment on? Sorry, I know that's a broad question, but I thought this was a good place to start asking. Thanks again, and keep up the great work.
Luckily, we can both field this one. I'm sure with very different perspectives, but
probably.
Since this is so broad, I will try just to give a concise, broad answer. I mean, if there's any detailed questions, of course we can go into that. But in the interest of time, my advice would be to because I've never come here without language, so mine would be more in entertainment and what to see.
Right.
Boy, I would try to, experience the cities as possible. Since you'd be coming into a larger city, I'm sure. Experience the city, but do know that is not quote unquote real Japan. That is not how, if not population wise, that is not how area wise how most of the country lives. See the countryside. Make time to go to temples that are in the middle of nowhere. Look for temples that have history, temples that are famous, and are located off off the beaten path. And in order to do that, and this is probably the best, catch-all kind of advice, is get the JR Rail Pass. Without question, it is invaluable to people who are traveling here. It is basically a rail pass that you carry around as a tourist, and you get for all Japan Rail trains, and there are non-Japan Rail trains, so please be careful of that on local trains and whatnot. But for like the bullet train and whatnot, you get to ride the bullet train as many times as you like, as long as you reserve your seat. It's unlimited. And given that the bullet train is kind of like riding an airplane on the ground, it's super useful. So definitely look into obtaining or saving up for, however you need to, the JR Rail Pass. That is invaluable for tourists.
Yeah, to go back to what you said about like the I guess not the true the average kind of area of Japan, that it's not everything is not just Tokyo, but it is very true that while there are definitely people who are like true Tokyo natives, where their family, they've lived there for generations. It's a very, very, very common experience in Japan that people's families, like they grew up in some rural area and then you move to Tokyo because that's where, all the jobs, that's where all the central, stuff is. And, you live in one of these big metropolis areas. But it is such a common thing that everybody has they have the folks back home. It's sort of like, if you live in LA or New York, but you're from the Midwest or you're from the South or something like that, and you fly back to your parents, that's a very, very common experience for Japanese people. And so I think, being able to see some rural areas would be a very, very different experience from just staying in Tokyo.
Yeah.
Just hanging around the busiest areas.
And if, I guess, in the future, for the segment, if there are any specific questions, like, what about this place or this place, or that, if I want to see a castle, where should I go, blah, blah, blah. Please do feel free to add, because I could talk for hours about that stuff, but I mean.
Yeah, Greg would know better than me, but I would assume, everybody who goes to the Mugiwara store loves, if you want to see One Piece stuff, I feel like that's kind of a no-brainer.
Mugiwara store is definitely an easy one, because they're pretty much settled in where they are. So,
yeah. I don't know. As far as like language resources, I really don't know. Unfortunately, there's probably people who do this sort of trip regularly who aren't fluent, and they probably have like specific resources. Like, I don't know if there are particular apps or like websites that focus on this stuff. Because I imagine, especially compared to when we were learning in the late 90s, early 2000s, that the internet resources specifically for people who want to visit Japan have to be so much richer than anything that we had back in the day, as far as like stuff that is very specific to the act of going over there as a tourist.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I guess what did I see? A couple of years ago, somebody showed me a device that was just like they hovered their phone over a menu and it just changed everything to English. And I was just like, "Fuck you, technology."
Yeah, that's in spirit, that's the same type of technology that creates all of those hilarious like English sort of like Chinese food menus that have bizarre translations. So you never quite know what you're going to get, but I would hope that at least some of them are better now than they used to be. Let's move on to King Doji, who says, hello, Stephen and Greg. What do you guys think of the Seraphim and the satellites? I should point out, this is from July 27th, so this is still several weeks ago. How independent / autonomous are they? How much of what we've seen of them is Vegapunk, and how much is their own personality that they've developed? What does destroying them mean as far as murder? Do you think Vegapunk stays in Punk Records because he too lives in fear of what he's created? And that is that Spy Kids? I think that is that's the Steve Buscemi line from Spy Kids about God living in fear of what he created.
Oh.
Anyways.
Are
these
it's Seraphim or satellites? Because they're
he's talking about both, but I think he maybe means Stella and the satellites.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. In terms of murdering them, that's a really, really good question, because this was raised in high school, and I don't even know if you could talk about this in high school these days because it's so touchy a subject. But like our biology teacher at the time, raised the question, is like, if you have a clone, can you harvest parts of that clone for yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And her argument for it was yes, because it's you, and it's over there, and you need part of you, so you have the right to say that you want this. Now, that is whether I agree with that or not. I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole, because that is a loaded conversation. But it is an interesting and scary question. These are not exactly clones of Vegapunk, but they are aspects of him. So to murder one of them, we are led to believe at this point that York has murdered Shaka, I believe. So what does that say? Can you quell your emotions? Can you quell a part of who you are? And does that mean that the Stella is lacking that, or was it simply an extension of that? I don't think it means that he's lacking it. Honestly, I do believe that he extended aspects of his personality.
Yes.
And we didn't see like some sort of like magical whoop scene after Shaka died where it was like, oh, I'm now just again.
Right.
We didn't get any of that.
I view them as like they're like supplemental extensions of those parts of his personality, but it doesn't seem like I don't think that they're like literally a part of him. In the sense of being like truly synchronized with his personality. They're like the whole premise of them was the neko no temo karitai is you want anyone you can help, every assistant he can possibly have who can do the same things he can. So he created these, and for whatever reason had each of them be an accentuated part, a facet of a different part of his personality.
Yeah. So I think they're USB sticks basically. I think they're copy paste part of his personality into a capable body.
Yeah, the more interesting question, or the nuanced question, I guess, would be like, do they develop other traits on their independently after having been, after having been offshot or being an offshoot of his mind? So like, did Shaka have certain experiences or like develop certain parts of an individual personality that made him
or her, I think,
or her. Yeah, I guess. Well, I thought I thought that they were clear about Shaka at least, but yeah, the different facets of his Vegapunk's personality. Do they exist as independent beings? That gets back to the clone question, I guess, of do they have true personhood or not? But it doesn't see, at least not yet. Oda has not really like delved too deep into that, and I honestly don't know if he will or not. I feel like this is more likely to end up as a storyline or a story element that he throws in because it's a fun like sort of sci-fi trope, and sort of a little bit of a cyberpunk sort of thing of brain clones and stuff like that, without necessarily digging 100% into all of the moral quandaries that surround it. I don't know if you have thoughts.
I might have to disagree with that to a degree. While I certainly see the logic in that, and it's very clear in the series how we're progressing. But, oh man, with York wanting to be an actual celestial dragon, that to me suggests the development of an individual.
Because you don't think that Vegapunk would have done that.
I do not think that Vegapunk would have done it. And let me put it this way: do I want to be rich? Yes. Am I willing to rob a bank to be rich? No. But if you put that want and desire of mine into its own little shell and you send it off into the world, it may,
without the other aspects, it not to go. Yeah,
it may be able to develop that want to, if then kind of basically yes, if I can get rich, then I must rob a bank, which is a conclusion that I would not draw. So
yeah, I do think that he's demonstrating the moral hazard of Vegapunk's decision to do this, to use his incredible intellect to, for a utility, a utilitarian purpose, of having more people who can do his job to help him be more efficient at what he does. He is also kind of, he's unleashing certain forces into the world that he is perhaps not entirely capable of handling on his own. Which is fun to consider. I mean, we're still, we still have some more of Egghead to go, so there's certainly room for Oda to elaborate more on this this sort of stuff. We're just kind of preoccupied with all of the combat and the excitement right now. Good question though.
Yeah.
Danny for Seraphim says, hello SGS. Since Luffy gained a power up with his observation hockey in Whole Cake Island, and he awakened his devil fruit and leveled up his armament and conqueror's hockey in Wano, I think the next power or ability Luffy will have to improve or focus on is probably the voice of all things. Any predictions on how this will go? And alternatively, do you have any thoughts about what the ability even is?
Oh boy.
Oh yeah, that's another big one.
Oh boy, this one probably for a good, seven or so years. I think since probably Zoe, I've been big on this one. But just again, I'll briefly summarize this for anyone who isn't familiar with my thoughts. I do believe that there is essentially a life stream in this world. And life stream being a theme from Final Fantasy VII, which is basically the Force from Star Wars. Which is that all life is united and it works in a cycle. Even if it isn't cyclic, then at least it is united in this thing that is part of existence. And that if you have anything like Future Sight in a series, like you could just make it be this magical thing. There is not much that's just plain magic in One Piece. Yes, there are things that are, but Oda usually explains most of what he does. And this sounds absurd because you have all these comical things going on, and you have to say what is he doing to be funny in the moment, and what is actually like realistically part of this world. And people are going to quote me on this and say, "Oh, Greg thinks that everything has to be completely realistic in the world." Well, what about this? What about this specific example? We can talk about that all day. But at the end of the day, it's he likes to have explanations for many things, and to put observation hockey out there as just this kind of thing that poof he can do. It doesn't not sit well with me, but it gives me the idea that there's something more in this world, and for there to be a truly fulfilling end to this series, I do believe that a lot of the characters need to come to terms with the trauma that they've experienced as children. And really the only way to do that for many of them is to have some way of setting things either right or settling things with the people that they respected as children. Or even as young adults with Luffy and Ace. It's not 100% necessary. It's not required for the story. There are people who will argue that would cheapen this or that, and I don't necessarily disagree with that. But I also believe it would be cathartic if by the end of the story, whatever I believe to be this force is accessible by Luffy, and he could be possibly a conduit for it.
Conduit, yeah.
To reach people. I expected something like this to happen at the end of Wano. It very much did not. But how things were left at Wano, my God, it really primes you for it. Outside the Straw Hat crew, one last chance for Toko to, was it Toko? Yeah. No. Yeah.
Toko to see your father?
Toko to see your father.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute, is he your father? No, he's not. But
Or,
yes,
yeah,
he is your father.
Father figure.
Father figure.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be quite poignant if that's what it is, and I do agree. I do agree that the next thing for him to kind of strengthen would be that. But does he go the same route as Momonosuke or not? That I can't exactly say. I don't know. Momonosuke may always have to be Momonosuke at what he does. I don't think Luffy gaining that specific power would be, well, I can't say that. I can't say it wouldn't be interesting, but it would be a little bit perhaps OP for the character, but going a different route and linking all of this life back to everyone, I think to me would be interesting, which is the short version. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean obviously this is kind of like very big picture and end game like emotional climax sort of stuff that we're hypothesizing here. But yes, I do believe we've discussed that sort of thing before. Vinny C. Doc Feelbad has this is a very interesting question. Sorry if you've gotten this before, but it's something I've been wondering for a while. Now that we know the name of the final island is Laugh-Tale and not Raftel, how would you approach this if you were to start translating the series from scratch? Personally, I'm a big fan of the ambiguity of the name Raftel, and finding out that it was Laugh-Tale was such a eureka moment, and that's something I fear would be lost if we were to get a sort of One Piece Kai or a retranslation of earlier material. Really interested to hear what you guys think. Yeah, this is something that it was brought up, when we first learned that as well, and it's definitely something that I've thought about. I've pondered before of like, what would you do if there was a retranslation, or if you had a chance to do it all over from the beginning. How would you would you recreate that effect of that kind of epiphany of like, oh, that's what it's supposed to be? Or, do you just start from Laugh-Tale at the beginning? And I don't know that there's a right answer, Oh boy.
Jeez. Oh, cheese and crackers. This is hard because what Oda chose in the katakana for the name was not the equivalent of Laugh-Tale.
Right.
So I'm of the I would for me, what I would, in a perfect world, I would, and we've had the same thing with like Gold Roger and whatnot. It's I would write Raftel. If it was up to me, I would write Raftel. And then when Laugh-Tale is finally written out, above it, similar to how it's done in Japanese with, like actual pronunciation is this, I would write above the large font Laugh-Tale, Raftel, for that reveal. I think that's how I would handle it. But maybe it's lucky that I'm not in charge of anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess my twist on that would be like, instead of Raftel specifically, I would make it phonetically identical. So, maybe like Lafteel or something like that.
Elegant.
So it's still Laugh-Tale. It's still the same sound, but then you get you get it parsed out for you, where it's like actually saying, here, this is what it actually was supposed to mean.
That's even far more elegant. I go with that. My idea is bad.
The thing is like that. It's interesting to consider that and to be like, okay, well, how do we recreate this kind of linguistic puzzle, if you will, from in starting over. But of course, in like more practical terms, like that bell's been rung, the cat is out of the bag. It's not, you can never surprise. You might be able to like surprise individual readers if they are following along the series in a vacuum, and they're just picking it up like, okay, hey, I just finished the One Piece Netflix. Let me get my my Shonen Jump subscription, and I'm just gonna go through the vault and read all the chapters, and then the Laugh-Tale reveal. Oh my God, it blew my mind. But anyone who it's like Ace's story. Anyone who for 5 seconds looks at the internet or looks it up is going to find out the truth or find out the answer. And so like in terms of the collective memory of the readership of the fan base, you can't get a do-over on that. So I do think that like for some people it will never matter how you would retranslate it because they already know. It's just a known fact. But in terms of like trying to recreate the same circumstances, there might be ways you could do that. You could do right by it, I guess. But it is always really hard. Like sometimes I wonder, when people ask hypothetical questions like that, like, well, what if they remade like the original Star Wars trilogy or something? Like, would you take out all the weird like inconsistencies between the movies? Would you remove Luke and Leia making out because it's actually really creepy in retrospect? all these things that you didn't necessarily know are going to be a sticking point back when you did them. But once you commit to going back and starting over, redoing things, then all of a sudden you have to question whether or not you should do them or not. Lots of tough questions, and not necessarily with like obvious answers or even like fully correct answers. There's always a possibility of things that are unintended consequences.
Good question.
Yeah, good question. Okay, this one is a very different question. Big Mike has a picture. I know you have seen this picture for yourself. It may be the actual thing. It is a picture of the shark toilet from Oda's house. And the question is, Greg, have you ever pooped in Oda's shark toilet? And Steven, would you if you had the opportunity?
Pooped?
Well, for me, absolutely. Yes, if I had the opportunity.
Not pooped. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Wow. This actually reminds me. This is a little sidebar. Leading up to the Netflix series, they did a lot of promotional videos and things with getting people hyped up for it. And one of the most notable ones, I think, was that little video that they had of Oda and Iñaki hanging out and having this very touching conversation in Oda's studio. What did you think of that? I mean, I don't know. Is that like old hat now of like, hey, we're gonna film Oda in his studio talking to people, or was that like, wow, I can't believe you did that?
I mean, I was there, so.
All right.
So it hits a little bit
all the
different.
Bombshells here.
Yeah. But to be able to see that, experience that, see the honest wonder in his eyes was a great moment. I mean, just a great. It's a great moment. It's I believe it's what we call wholesome these days. It's a wholesome moment. To be able to see that just makes your heart happy.
Yeah. All right. Professional Poyo. We're getting closer now here. This one is August 12th. Professional Poyo says, hey, SGS, I've been recently thinking about the story dynamic between Luffy and Akainu. Obviously, Luffy doesn't like him, but it doesn't seem like Luffy is seeking revenge for Ace's death like we would see in other shonen series. Even Luffy acting blindly vengeful seems like it would be out of character for him. It doesn't even seem like Oda has been building up Luffy and Akainu clashing very much, if at all. So do you think their battle is a necessity for the series, or is it just something fans have been hyping themselves up for years?
Wow. What great questions. I tend to disagree. I think that the more Oda steers us away from something, the more he intends to perhaps deliver on it. Now, if this is going to be the Titanic end-all battle between Luffy and Sakazuki, no, I don't think that, but I do think that there has to be, for dramatic purposes, for storytelling purposes, there has to be a confrontation of some sort, and a reckoning of some sort. You are absolutely correct on the revenge thing. The only thing where I've seen Luffy possibly get a flare of vengeance in his eyes was when he met Blackbeard in Impel Down. That was a slightly different form of Luffy that we've seen. He was pissed at Blackbeard for something that had no relation to him directly, his body, his bodily harm, his bodily safety, etc. Luffy often gets angry on the behalf of others, but I mean, this is beyond townspeople. This is family to him.
Yes.
So it's basic. It's, if you can think of it this way, it's almost as God, is it worse or equivalent to somebody like doing this to one of the crew, not murdering, but like sending to jail as he did to Ace, like one of the crew.
Right.
So yeah, I do think that the story demands that there be a confrontation between the two, and because Luffy he doesn't talk about this stuff. He's not like, I gotta get revenge, but if he's ever confronted with him, I think that his eyes might light up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree, and it's like what you said about his reaction to Blackbeard, where it was a very different Luffy, and that's a very different Luffy from who we see today. 2 years later, he's made peace with that in a certain sense. He's moved on from that moment, and I think he's grown after it. But yeah, like you said, I do think that in the moment of confrontation, I would expect to see some kind of particular reaction to Luffy in terms of remembering Ace and remembering what happened between them.
I don't see rage so much as I do is at this point in his life is just we're here because of you, and I'm not going to let you get away with it again. Or
yes, resolution. Yeah. Yeah, and it's kind of interesting too. They're not the same thing, and he certainly doesn't have the same relationship, but it is. It is interesting to see Luffy, at this moment, as we're recording this, facing off against Kizaru, and that being, it's not a grudge match, but it's, it is a rematch of sorts, where we're going to be sort of comparing how things went 2 years ago to how they go today.
Oh my God. I mean, the framing, it just is
yeah.
It's not one for one, obviously. But it does call to mind the rally kick, and if you look at the sound effects, the rally kick was don, and Luffy's kick here is zedong. And he said it's not a coincidence that he says we're 100 times stronger, because back on Shabondi, Shaki was the one who was like, that guy's 100 times stronger than you, and talking about Rayleigh, and it's
oh my God, blocked Kizaru's kick. Yeah. Yeah, it's very cool stuff, and obviously I think just in terms of general story presentation or framing, that if Luffy comes out of this looking pretty good against Kizaru, then the next question would be, and now Akainu, like he's ready, he's prepared for that moment. But it certainly plot wise, it doesn't seem like that's particularly close.
Nope.
Akainu's got to have an excuse to go out into the field again, because he's been stuck behind the desk.
It needs to be another Marineford level at least, because that was the first time we saw Sengoku actually get out and get his feet dirty, his hands dirty.
Yes, and so maybe we'll get that after whatever the Egghead incident turns out to be. September 2nd. So here we go. Now we have our first question about the live action. This comes from Slayer King, who says, this question is a spoiler for the live action of One Piece from episode 4. Greg, how are you feeling now that they killed your character Mary off, unlike in the manga and the anime? Do you think if the series does well, they may bring you back in season 2? Maybe as Hero Look or someone from the Kicking Claw Force. Thanks.
Oh my God. You know what? This became a thing at the office in work.
Oh, no.
It was just everybody. I get like memes, and they're
Let's
like,
tease Greg.
yeah, and oh my god, I wish I could repost it. It's a Facebook video, so I can't like save it or anything. But one of my coworkers just like filmed himself, just like with the screen, obviously not well filmed at all, like poorly filmed. The screen's moving all around, and he's just looking at the screen, and it's Mary, and he's like, "Oh no, Greg, get out of there! Greg, get out of there! No, no, Greg!" You guys, the worst.
Yes.
If you
We've
don't
all
know
had
what
our
we're talking
fun.
about, there's this big
Yeah.
thing. Not, I don't know if it was big, but there was a thing where people thought that I was Mary. I think some YouTuber like went off some rapidly drawn conclusions that I was playing Mary in the live action, and it kind of got spread that way. And there is a resemblance, in the trailer. And people, when they saw the live action, they saw the actual actor close up. They're like, "Oh my god, it doesn't look like you at all." And I'm like, I see the resemblance. I see the eyes and some of the facial structure. But he's a much older gentleman, and that is most definitely not me.
All right. You heard it here. All right. Our last question on the disc piece here is from 36NLs on the Moon, who says, "Hey, SGS, hope you're doing well. In One Piece live action, it seems like the writers really used their benefit of hindsight, already knowing what's going to happen in the series 1,000 chapters down the line. Let them add some really interesting foreshadowing and setups. Were there any additions that you really liked?" I don't know. Is that something you feel good about answering?
Yeah. There's, and this is one of the things that's, one of my notes, that came out to be something. But have you noticed the very ending of the season 1? And I don't mean the kind of stinger there. With spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen the series, and what happens at the very, very end before the credits roll. You've been warned again. All right. We see Smoker, in sitting as this. But right before that, do you notice how the camera pans out, and what it pans out over is you see the ocean, obviously, but very specifically, we are heading into the what? We are heading into the sun. So if you know anything about Luffy and what that means for him, it's deliberate that we are ending the series on a positive note, heading into the sun as our future.
That is cool. I would not have necessarily pinned that, but that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's see. Now we do have a bunch of Twitter questions and replies to the call. You can add your own questions at hashtag SGS Sensei, or reply to the tweet if you happen to see it, asking for questions. So let's see here what we got. Let's see. You may have answered this as specifically as you wanted to, but I will bring it up again. Laser Natu says, Greg, as an advisor for the live action, are there any aspects of the final show, major or minor, that specifically came from you? And tying somewhat into that, what are you personally most proud of concerning your involvement?
Oh boy, this is one of those things that I really want to answer. I actually haven't been told don't answer this question. It's a lot of Oda stuff. It's been don't talk about Oda. Don't talk about this.
Right.
But I guess there are a lot. I mean, there's so many that like, man, I'm glad that made it in. But the one that I'm just like, yes, like I'm so glad this turned out so well is probably Mr. Seven.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Utilizing Mr. Seven there in that way was one of the earliest notes that I provided, and I don't want to say what it was or how that was, but like I said, well, this would be probably a really interesting way to expand on what we know about the universe, and why not introduce Baroque works here? So I mean, that was just to see that turn into what it did, as just the chef's kiss introduction to Zorro. Was wonderful.
That is really, I mean, if you let me wax poetic here, that is kind of a masterstroke in terms of, it is an event that we know happened. Well, maybe Zorro didn't necessarily kill him, as far as we know, but we know canonically that yes, he was they attempted to recruit him before we saw Zorro, and he fought him off, and so that's how he knows what Baroque works is. So it is. It is something you can use to introduce the character and have it be, chronologically, logical, and also, yes, it's an introduction to where Zorro is before he knows Luffy, and also it sets up this thing that you can call back later, like, hey, remember that guy that Zorro fought? Well, his group that he was talking about is going to be a big, antagonist. It's going to be a big thing that we're going to have to deal with. So I think that was a really good, a very ingenious suggestion.
Thank you.
It's worth being proud of, for sure.
I'm just glad people enjoyed it.
Yeah. Let's see. Victor Warmegard says, been rereading OP recently, and to my delight, when I opened up volume 65, I see Steven's first credit. What's the process behind jumping into an already established translation? What are the pros and cons compared to starting from scratch? That is a really good question. I don't know if I've ever actually talked about that angle specifically. Yeah, boy, I'm trying to put myself in the mindset of when I started working. I know that it was a whirlwind, honestly, because when I got the offer, when I got the notice, like, hey, we're going to switch to this, would you be willing to do this weekly? There wasn't really that much time between. It was maybe a few months before between when I started working on it, and then like pretty much immediately I was starting to work on that volume 65 as the fill, as the catch up from where their graphic novels were at the time, what they already had in production, and what would be necessary to be able to go live with the latest chapter. So I did a lot of that in the months in between. But it was, I would be lying if I said we were like perfectly prepared for it, because I had, of course, the entire series in Japanese. I always buy the volumes as soon as they're out. But I did not have any English volumes at that point. And I trying to remember if I borrowed my little sister back home had a complete set at the time at one point, which was, I think, maybe up into Alabasta or so. So she had about 20 volumes or so. But there was a bunch that I did not have access to. And I think Alexi sent me it would have been kind of a hassle to try to coordinate something with like their distributor to have a whole set sent to me. So I think what he did is he just grabbed every, all the loose volumes that they had in the office, because they always get a couple samples, and so they just have a little in-office library of stuff. So he just had a little grab bag and sent them to me in a box, and I kind of had to track down the rest of them. And I didn't really have the time or the energy to do like a full, like, study every last thing, look up every last thing. So I know that there were some things that I was inconsistent on, and he did have to set me straight on some things. Like, for example, I didn't initially know, and this was important because I was doing Fishman Island, that they spelled Fishman with a hyphen in between fish and man, because I was used to just saying it as one word, Fishman. And so he had to tell me that. He had to point out Jimbei's the spelling in Viz was Jimbei and not Jinbe, the way that Oda usually spells it. And so there were lots of things like that where
I'm sure he did that in a completely non-sarcastic manner as well.
Oh yeah. I literally think he was like, oh, Jimbei, and spelled it out in like all capital letters. You funny fish man, like just very, very, very kindly and gently letting me down. Gotta love Alexi. There was a lot of stuff like that where I didn't necessarily know at first, and I just kind of had to pick it up over time. I picked things up through, and there are still things that are probably inconsistent, or at some point it was just like, okay, well, I started doing something different, and that's just the way that we do it now. It's there's really there's no perfection to be found in an English translation, because even if you want to go off of canonical terms, there's no perfection in Oda's world either, because he has spelled so many things in multiple ways. Yeah. So that was something that I kind of had to learn to let go, or not to stress about too much. As far as what are the pros and cons, I would say, the pros are that there's lots of things that I don't necessarily have to decide for myself, or to redo if it's like, okay, well, this is already our established way of doing this or that, or spelling this name, or referring to this power or whatever. So a lot of that stuff I didn't necessarily have to kind of consider of doing from scratch. And of course the cons are, well, if it happens to be something that I don't like or don't agree with, then I have a quandary of either I have to put up with it and just kind of grit my teeth and grumble under my breath, or I have to I have to come out and say like, okay, I want to change this. Like, can we do that? Can we do this? And is this feasible? And maybe I'll get shot down, or maybe they'll be okay with it, but I have to find all the time, they need to submit corrections on all these old volumes. So I need to go find all the, stuff like that. So sometimes that can be a bit of a fight. Yeah, I don't know. It was a very strange experience for me in particular, as I'm sure you could probably imagine, just having a certain, headcanon about all of the presentation of the series, and then kind of having to adjust to it, to a new one. But, obviously that was how it had to be if I wanted to slip into this job. And so I was more than willing to deal with that, to get to do this.
You know what terrifies me?
What's that?
Is if Dai ever gets picked up, the Adventures of Dai ever gets picked up again for translation, and if they do decide to return to me for a translation, I essentially have to do that for myself, because I've forgotten everything about the world. Yeah.
And that's a tough one too, because in your case, that's based off of video games, and the video games have their own style guides, which also are not consistent necessarily from title to title. Yeah. So yeah, it's a
process, like they say.
It is. Yeah. Let's see. Skills at 91 Ryan says, if you could craft a One Piece fighting game like Dragon Ball FighterZ, what characters would you have make the roster? Wouldn't this just be if you make your own, what was it? Burning Blood 2? What characters would you have make the roster?
Well, I remember, I think Fighting for One Piece, that awful, like Nightmare Fuel Chopper game. It's probably
everybody. Why not?
Yeah, everybody. Hey, it's easier to probably maybe say who I wouldn't want. All I know is that Gaimon would have to make the cut. Gaimon would have to be like.
Yeah. Okay. If my real answer is, if I was going to craft a One Piece fighting game, I would just pick all the reject characters. Like, we're putting Hamlet in there, Gaimon, Jacket, Fruit, just all the weirdos. None of the cool characters. That would be my version of a One Piece fighting game.
Oh man, Jigoro.
You were
zombie. Yeah, the zombie. the two zombie or whatever, Fundoshi or something. Yeah.
Great.
Inupe.
Yeah, just a bunch of the Thriller Bark characters.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. B at Champagne Brokey. All right, we got a bunch of questions on this one. Let's see. Maybe we could do them quickly. Number one, what was the hardest change for you? I don't.
For the series?
I guess for the live action, yeah.
Live action. The one that sticks out in my mind is the scene where Shanks tells Luffy to be a good pirate, because Luffy being a good pirate has nothing to do with who Luffy is. It's the fact that nobody has told him to be good, and that he simply is what we recognize as good that makes him admirable. Because as we know from Fishman Island, Luffy does not want to be good. He doesn't see himself that way at all. And he, in fact, wants to steal and wants to do quote-unquote piratey things that he thinks are piratey. But there's no factor about being good in there. So that was a tough change.
In the original scene, I guess you're referring to, like, he tells Luffy, okay, bring the hat back once you're a great pirate.
Yes.
Right. Like, it's about greatness or just, growing up and being a bigger figure than he is as a kid. But yeah, that's a very different implication.
In fact, I noticed that the Japanese version of the Netflix show kind of glosses over that as well. They're like
pretty much quote the original.
Iko ni shitene. They're just like, be a good kid, not be a good pirate. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay.
They make it a little bit more digestible. Otherwise, fans might riot.
That's an interesting way to look at it. All right. Was there any scene that Oda insisted had to be included that made you go, and the includes the emoji with the monocle and a raised eyebrow in terms of theory crafting? Like, oh, interesting that you insisted on that scene. Anything like that?
Yes. No further comment.
No further comment. Okay.
Yes.
All right. That's fair enough. Fair enough. Cool. Maybe one day we'll
maybe one day.
Yeah. All right. And this maybe, let me know if this is if this is getting a little too close to the sun too here. With Dragon far away, how do you think he appears in the story? Is that a type of speculation about future material that you feel comfortable making?
I do know a little bit about dragon stuff, and it's actually a mite bit more complicated than everybody thinks. And it's related to something that I've specifically been asked not to talk about. Don't talk about dragon, but just like one of the aspects of production I've been asked not to talk about. So I really cannot comment on that. I apologize.
Okay. All right, and then we will, let's see, skip that. He had an offshoot of that. Let's see. I'll throw in one more. How would you structure Elbaf, unless you think we'll go elsewhere, and how do you think Oda will? I'm not sure. This is from the same person, so I'm not sure if he's still talking about the live action or if he's just talking about in the manga. Maybe let's just assume
manga.
It's the manga. Yeah.
I see. I used to see Elbaf at, well, you know what? It still might be as an intended kind of cooldown arc. But I basically think it's the moon in Apollo 13. I think that it's going to slingshot us into the final arc. It is a great opportunity to see the powers of Blackbeard at work with those giant trees. That would be excellent fodder for his pirates to be able to see what they're capable of. Although we have gotten a great taste of it in Hachino, Full of Lead. I think that's a good spot for us to get slingshot into the final events. Far more than Wano or Egghead at this point.
I am still kind of torn on how Oda might handle Elbaf. Like, I mean, I love to have like a full-sized arc there, but it doesn't seem. I mean, especially if Oda is, if he is really set on this is the final arc, he's got to get everything set up for the big confrontation, the set up all the dominoes and knock them all down. It does seem like that should be Laugh Tale, and not, on Elbaf itself. But I do think that there's a lot we can learn there. And I kind of wonder too, I was thinking about this, like as far as Oda being able to depict particularly a long arc of humans and giants, because I mean we know he can do it because he did it in Little Garden, but that is a very different time in One Piece's production, and like the way that he could show Dory and Brogy interacting with the Straw Hats is he had all of those like full page drawings, or at least like full verticality, where he could draw Dory and Brogy, in their true majesty, and then the Straw Hats in in scale. And I don't know if he can do that same thing anymore with the way that he panels the series now.
Yeah.
And maybe this is me, like in particular, having a little bit of a reaction to like at the end of Wano when Luffy does the finishing blow against Kaido. And I guess my biggest issue with that, besides the it's just a big punch thing, is that I feel like the way that he drew it, I didn't quite feel the scale. In fact, watching the anime with he hasn't finished it, but in the most recent episode, as of the time that we're recording, Luffy was ballooning up his fist to do the final punch, and obviously with a lot of animation and a lot of different shots and the ability to show scale like that, they have a significant advantage over Oda just having the pen and paper. But I definitely remembered thinking like, oh, it didn't look that big, and then having to tell myself, no, it had to be really huge. It's just the way that he paneled it out. I didn't quite see it in the moment. So I am a little worried about like, okay, well, can he really show us human-sized characters interacting with a lot of giants and having that be an ongoing thing, being a little difficult. So
it seems like he used to do a lot of fancy things with perspective, and now it's almost just like he draws a person in the foreground and a giant in the background, and like a part of their body.
Right.
And I do miss that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's probably just a timing thing, but
yeah, it's a casualty of the fact that he's trying, he's working with fewer pages and he's taking these breaks, so he wants to get through stuff at the same kind of pace of time, of real world time, and so there's lots of concessions that he has to make to have that work, and unfortunately some of those things are getting to do cool experiments like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I really don't know what to think about Elbaf yet. Let's see here. Continuing our questions, David William Wodek says, I hope everything is going well with One Piece. Hopefully its second week numbers are looking good. Would you know? Well, I think if Greg were to reveal exclusive Netflix statistics on our podcast, it would probably get us in trouble. So I don't know.
Luckily, I am 100% ignorant to that world. So
yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't know about the second week stuff. Obviously, I think the news on the first week numbers is very good. Unqualified success.
Yes.
Across the board. Everybody.
And all that matters is Rotten Tomatoes, right? Our Lord and Savior. So
yeah. Yeah.
And I'd say that like I'm deriding, but I mean I do think we depend too much on it as a medium, but it is what it is, and it is it looks to source now. So for what it is, I am extremely happy that we have the results there. So
yeah, and I mean they have obviously they must make different differentiations between the cumulative time that is watched and also the feedback of like, did people enjoy it? Did they like it? Because I feel like the obvious point of comparison is Cowboy Bebop, and I think that had a splash. Like I feel like its first week, obviously nowhere near One Piece's, but it was not promoted anywhere near as heavily.
No.
And I feel like their initial numbers were not that bad. But the problem is, if every other person is saying this sucks, this is like I don't even want to watch this, I think that tells them a lot about the reception to it. And I think they're too savvy to just look at a number alone. They want to also look at, okay, is this something that people are going to come back to and watch? Are they going to be looking forward to a second season? And stuff like that is definitely, in the positive for One Piece's case.
Yeah.
Let's see. Sunny at 25th Cloud says, and maybe you can confirm this for us, was there a nod to the Croco Mom joke in episode 1? I don't know if joke is the right word, or meme, or theory.
Yeah. Some people have been asking me this. Now, regarding that character specific, what they're talking about is there's a scene where we see a female character framed, and then the camera moves off to the left and we see Shanks.
Yes, this is the execution of Gold Roger, which, I mean, if you've seen the show, you know that there's lots of Easter eggs. You get to see either close up or like on the back of several characters who are like, oh, I know who that is, I know who that is, I know who that is. So that's what we're referring to here.
And I made a joke back when I was doing the costumes. Like, look, this costume came from this color spread, or this costume came from this color. I did a a cheeky joke where there was a woman running away from the execution platform, and I just posted a picture of Crocodile with a question mark or something next to her. I don't know. I was being memey. But that people really seemed to react to that, so I guess that got them primed for looking at this particular character. Now, whether they intend that to be Crocodile or not is completely up to the writers and the production team. I do not know about that. Actually, there are a lot of Easter eggs I don't know about. There are some Easter eggs that are straight out incorrect. Unfortunately, there's like a broccoli island or something, and they freaking called it regular broccoli island, but it's not. It's actually broccoli island because it's a joke in Japanese and blah.
Right.
I don't know. That was a huge mess, but a lot of that stuff in terms of that stuff being Easter eggs is not included in the scripts. So or the drafts.
Because it's like set production.
It's like set production
basically.
stuff. Yeah. So while I was able to see some of the Easter eggs later in the production process, I never saw them on paper or what was decided on set. So it is entirely possible, that they intend that to be Crocodile. It is entirely possible. I have no knowledge of it, whether it is or is not. However, personally, and actually, having said that, since it is kind of getting a following, it's possible that they might turn it into something. It might actually influence to turn it into something because it is, which would be funny. But I do believe that the purpose of that was simply to pull the viewer's eye into the middle of the scene so that they were focusing on something, and that when the camera deliberately drifts to the side and we see the Shanks character come into scene, I believe that was intended for regular viewers who have never seen the series, that on their first view they would not think anything of it. However, on a repeat view, that is exactly the how the camera moves and how it focuses on her and then pulls you over, is intended, I believe, is intended to pull second time viewers having seen the series for the having experienced One Piece for the first time through the live action, to drawing their eye to Shanks for an aha moment. That's what I believe it was being used for, which is why it focuses on the character so specifically. But I can't say for certain or not.
So in other words, it could simply have been, well, we need someone to look distinct, for a close up that for that purpose, so that we can set up this, little subterfuge in the shot.
Precisely.
And nothing necessarily more deep than that.
That's just my speculation on it. That is not a confirmed.
All right. Interesting. Ewan at Ewan _Y says, would love to know what your initial thoughts were when you first saw who they'd cast for the various roles.
This was that's a well phrased question, because I have it was like, what did you think about this casting, or did you cast this person, or did you like? I had nothing to do with casting.
Right.
I had zip to do with it. I just saw some of the results. They asked a couple ideas. And I was like, oh, yeah. Particularly Shanks' character, Peter, because it was so weird, because I just binged Yellow Jackets, and he plays a fairly major role in Yellow Jackets. And like, just as we were wrapping up the series, I got a text, and it's like, what do you think about this guy for Shanks? And I was like, oh, I just saw him and he's super good. Like, he would be a great Shanks. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, that's so weird. But let's see. My initial reaction was, I won't go into specifics for this, just because confidentiality and whatnot. But like, specifically for Iñaki, it was just like this. This was even just looking at his previous works, and kind of looking through his work with Netflix from the past. I was just like, yeah, this is absolutely,
he just fell out of heaven into your lap.
He's Luffy. He is Luffy, which is the constant thing that I've been saying. Is, he is Luffy. And some of the others were a little bit more difficult. I in terms of acting and how they play off of each other, perfect. Image wise, and perhaps this comes from the whole Steve Buscemi thing, but I feel that Taz, who is an excellent Sanji, I think he is the Sanji, but I also think he's super built. Like, he has a massive upper body, and I just never pictured Sanji that way.
I see.
I think he's a great Sanji. There's no slight on that. It's just I see Sanji as like a if you were to draw a figure, like, people look like triangles, right? You draw people as triangles and whatnot. He is the aesthetic quote unquote male triangle, right? With the large upper body weight. Whereas Sanji feels more to me like almost a reverse triangle that is not a triangle so much as the Eiffel Tower. That's the kind of body type that I feel that he has. Which is why it was surprising. It's not bad. I'm not talking smack about anybody. It's just like, I was unprepared for that.
And that's the sort of thing that I'm sure, if you asked the first time viewers, do you like Sanji? 99% of them are going to tell you, oh yeah, he's perfect. He's great. He's so hot. He's so cool. That's one of those little things you got to get over, kind of as a fan of the original work.
Mission accomplished.
Yes.
He's perfect.
Cool. Let's see. Pow at Pow Huilatini says, I have so many questions, but I just want to say thank you to both of you, because this community wouldn't be the same without your hard work. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
But also, who surprised you more out of the One Piece live action cast? For me, Goth Daddy was everything. I'm guessing that's Mihawk.
Mihawk surprised me.
I
know mine. Go for it.
Okay. Oh, I was gonna say. So I'm gonna admit here that I still have not had the time to finish the season, but I think this next week I should have a lighter schedule. So I'm looking forward to finally getting through all the rest of the episodes. But I will say, and I think I mentioned this on our first impressions last week, that I love Helmeppo's actor. I think he is so funny, and just like the physical proportions of like his face and the way that he transforms into Helmeppo once you give him like the wig and everything. And I really, really enjoyed him in the early episodes.
Yeah, he's another one of those like manga come to life.
Yeah.
But I think for me, was probably without question is Zoro, Makenyu Zoro, because that was another one where I was just like, I feel Zoro's a little bit more rough, and he's got like a little stubble on him maybe. He's like a little bit more of a tough looking guy. Not, and people are going to misquote me on this. Greg says Makenyu looks weak. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying Makenyu, he is built. He has a strong upper body. He's not quote unquote chiseled. Like you'd see like a Brad Pitt from Fight Club era, or even better actually, Ed Norton from Fight Club era. And not that he's that slim, but just I that's the image I had of 110% just pure muscle. I wasn't sure of what I was going to experience when I first saw him. And when he first stands up in profile to talk to Mr. Seven, like you see him in close-ups up to that point. And when he first stands up and you see him almost full body, I don't think his feet are in the shot. But you see him in profile for the first time with the three swords, and my jaw hit the floor. I was just, it's Zoro. Like the profile was, it was manga that was moving. It was incredible, and that just won me over completely, entirely in that moment. So he was probably the biggest, maybe, surprise for me. In terms of just like I wasn't sure what to expect, and again just delivered above and beyond any expectations. So
I think his maybe it's in concert with the wardrobe and like the way that he's dressed. I feel like that sort of silhouette of like sort of broad shoulders and pecs, and then like kind of a thinner waist. It does fit very neatly into Oda's, the way that he draws his more human characters. And that definitely struck me as well. A couple more here. Michael Cunningham at Michael X Edge has a question in regards to future One Piece live action. What arc would you be most excited to see created for live action? What arc do you need to see put in live action? So let's skip beyond a hypothetical second or third season or so. Like, let's talk, far in the future. Now that we've seen, one season of this and what this group of folks can do, what would you be really excited to see in future One Piece material?
For me, and even though Stephen prefaced that really well, just to put this under the cloak of speculation, entirely speculation, I strongly believe that if we are able to work our way through, say, Drum and Alabasta, however those get divvied up, I think that if you work your way through Drum, there is no way that you can't do Alabasta by that point to completion. So I think that all of those, if things work out, then those would be set and established. However, I would love to see Skypiea simply for the experience of it, because how Skypiea is presented and how it's received by the fan base, I think would then make or break the series, all the way through to, say, Marineford. If you can pull off Skypiea and maintain the attention of the viewer, then I think you would be able to increase the longevity of the show. and this is not from anybody. This is not, nobody has told me this, or no, we haven't discussed
Right.
this, but the reason I believe this so strongly is because Skypiea is a divisive arc for fans, and it was the first big drop off for One Piece, mainly because of its length, and also because people couldn't see big picture. They didn't, accept that this is going to actually be super duper important in the future of the larger story of the series. But that's why for me, more as a, not like I gotta see this character, I gotta see this fight, but just in terms of what would be possible for the series, I would love to see how they handle Skypiea.
That's a really good, yeah, that's an interesting answer too, because I would say, and this is me also just speaking completely speculatively, I would have no reason to know, what sort of conversations happened about this sort of thing. But it does strike me as the kind of arc where if you were to look at, and you were to say, okay, well, if we're looking at very finite, we have a finite amount of time to work with these actors. We have a finite amount of time. We're not going to spend 15 years or 15 seasons working on this story. We have to tell it in a certain number of seasons. That's the sort of thing that I think that, if you're looking really hard at what is absolutely necessary and what isn't, I'm like, I would have to place it on the outside of that line, just because of, the connections even to this point are still so tenuous. And if you're trying to be really direct from season to season in terms of what you've already filmed, it's just a really tough thing to put together.
Oh man, it's it asks a lot of it demands the trust of the viewer, the reader, that they enjoy the characters and are invested in the characters, so that they enjoy the journey at that point, not so much the story. They enjoy spending time with those characters. Now, I do believe it would be truncated, and that's where things start to get a little bit more difficult. When we do truncate, some of these larger arcs, how will we construct that so that it still pleases fans? And I think you get a little taste of that in season 1 with how they handled Syrup Village. So how did you feel about Syrup Village? Did you feel that was dealt with respectively, and did you still feel the same kind of danger and emotion? But there is an awful lot missing from it. But again, it's what it needed to be, and I think in terms of our cast of heroes that we have, I think it worked well with them to their advantage, to their story.
And next question. Now, we may have already kind of covered this, but let's see. Raftel Rick says, "What was your least favorite change from the manga and anime?" You did mention the line from Shanks, so I don't know, unless you have a different thing to bring up. That's
I probably do, but I also don't want to talk too derisively about the series at
Yeah,
this point when it
yeah,
just came out.
yeah.
So, but
That's fair.
that for me is probably the big one, the being a good pirate.
All right. If I can speak over the screaming children outside, let's see. Michael at peakm85_peak says, "It's a non-One Piece question, but I've been wondering, has Greg ever met Toriyama?"
Ooh, that hurts.
Oh, sorry.
No, yeah,
I had a feeling.
not your fault, but it was supposed to happen twice.
Oh no.
Yeah, twice, and the first time, it was kind of a promise over a dinner, and it was kind of a lighthearted thing, but like I'll see if I can do this for you, arrange this for you, and then later. At another dinner, a couple years later, I was like, "Hey, so you remember that thing you mentioned?" And he was just like, "Oh, did I?" And I was like, "Yeah, you totally did." And he was just like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." And there was another person there too, so like he felt super awkward. And then he was like, "You know what?" He's like, "Yes," and he was like, "I know where and when it will be. We'll get this. It's gonna happen." Enter COVID-19.
I had a feeling that's where the story was going.
Yeah. So I do need to revisit that person now that it's been a couple of years again, and ask them again. But yeah, I do need to be careful about how much I bug them. So
Yeah.
but
I had a feeling that if such a meeting had ever happened, we would know about it by now. So that's where I had a feeling I knew where that was going. Let's see. Chris at Bonobo Chris. Does Greg know, and is he allowed to share if Oda enjoys the first season? Also, what's your favorite changes? For me, it's Zoro being first mate and his flashback, since Koshiro actually asked why he wants Wado Ichimonji instead of just giving it away like it's nothing. Interesting.
As far as Oda, it's Oda's reactions, Oda's this and that are one of the things they specifically asked me to be careful about. But I'm not going to say, like, I wonder how Oda felt. He is absolutely proud of the project and how it turned out. And I think if you're looking, to gauge how he feels, and if, there's any uncertainty or whatnot, or if he feels, we would wish we could have done this, do read his comments. A lot of which, actually, I forgot to mention this. A lot of the Oda comments that came out over the years, the letters and things to the fans, I translated a lot of them, or managed the translation of them, and those are honestly how he feels about the series. So like he had the one with Jimbei in it, right? Like don't count what you've lost, count what you have, right? I'm not quoting verbatim there, but though that is a concern, that he has, and he's being honest about that. Is like, I do wonder if people will be worried about this, but you know what? Think about what you have and not what you've lost, in terms of characters, and obviously, Django and Gaimon and things like that. But those letters are a door to how he truly feels. There is no glossing over or business lingo in there. That is honest. Those are honest.
Yeah. I mean that all seems to line up with my expectations. Certainly. I mean, you're closer to the man than I am, by a long shot. And so I certainly, trust your word on that.
Yeah.
Let's see. In favorite changes, well, you did mention I guess you mentioned the Mr. 7 fight in terms of, your suggestion. Would you still say, or is there anything else outside of that you thought was particularly neat?
Let's see. I thought that, if we can't do the Black Cat pirates with a pirate ship, then I thought the idea of putting them in the house was clever. I thought that was a good idea and an excellent use of the characters. I don't think there was anything that was betrayed there necessarily at all, even though it is a big change. I feel that's another way that the writers are able to show their love for the series in using established characters in an appropriate and acceptable way.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. If for nothing else, then interesting as an alternative setting, so that it's not, like you said, if it's not all going to be, here we're fighting on this ship, and then this time we're fighting on this ship, and then this time we're fighting on this ship. I think it's a nice change of pace from some of the other, so they each have a very distinct look, which which frankly, we're talking about East Blue, that might be one of the areas that I think is kind of the weakest as far in the manga, as far as like really crafting a unique look and sense of place for each different setting of each arc. There's a lot of similar landscapes and background styles and stuff like that. and he didn't really get to develop those very rich locations until later arcs.
Yeah, I think the first even hint of that is really Baratie. I mean, that's the first wow location, and the other's like, here's a town, here's another town, and here's a village. Arlong Park is probably the second, but even Arlong Park is surrounded by Kokoyashi, which is just kind of like village.
Yeah, it's really not until the Grand Line that you get that like sense of every new place is a new attraction in this crazy theme park. So yeah, I agree. I think that was an interesting touch. Let's see. I think that may be it as far as our questions. And we've been going on a fair amount of time. There's other stuff on this episode, as people will know by now, I'm sure. Obviously, there is so much that could be said about the live action, and I'm sure people will come up with other questions to ask over the weeks and months ahead.
Please do.
We're definitely eager to hear those questions. I'd love to hear what Greg has to say about some other aspects of the series that he is able to talk about. But I think this was a very satisfying. It was good to catch up on the fan questions this time.
It was actually a lot of fun to field them, and terrifying at the same time.
All right, we made it together. We're all alive. Okay, well, until the next time, then, Greg. It's been good talking to you.
You as well. And
once again,
Simba,
congratulations on that first season.
Thank you very much.
In the books, yeah.
Thank you. And I hope Simba's doing well too.
Yeah, he's
a trooper.
His ears are perked up from all the screaming children outside, but he's doing all right.
What's happening in
I don't know. I think it's just the kids downstairs are playing in the backyard.
Oh, all right.
Okay. Yeah, nothing out of the ordinary.
I was like,
anyways,
is Big Mom hungry or something? Or like,
oh, I hope not. Yeah, let's move on to the next segment.
All right.
This has been the One Piece Podcast, episode 786 for September 11th. Thank you all for coming on the show this week. Wow, what a packed episode that I totally have heard all of as I sit here right now. But seriously, huge thanks to Greg, Daniel Baugh, and Stephen Paul, the translator for One Piece and Weekly Shonen Jump and Manga Plus.
How's it going,
awesome.
Stephen?
Sorry, I forgot that part. But he's not here.
It's my favorite part. No, it's a rhetorical. How's it going?
Yeah, that's true. I do want to know how it's going for him. Or just in general. Anyway, thank you all so much for all of your hard work putting those segments together. And thank you all for listening. This week we have a special episode, as I mentioned at the top of the show, all about the One Piece live action. We have a segment with Vero and Steve going through, I believe it's going to be the first arc, which I think are 2 episodes. Episode 1 and 2. And then we're having I think almost 90-minute interview with the musicians behind the One Piece live action series, Sonia Belousova and Giona Ostinelli. Make sure to listen to that. It's awesome. And I hope the writers' strike and Screen Actors Guild strike ends with them being extremely victorious soon, so we could have more interviews like that, because I know how passionate the writers and the actors are about this series, and I would like them to be fairly compensated and fairly treated and not replaced by an artificial intelligence, and the many other just completely normal demands. Anyway, I'm not going to get off in a rant, but I hope that we could talk to them soon. But until we get into all that fun stuff, Marianne, where could people find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram and Blue Sky. I just got it.
Bluesky?
So yeah. Well, I don't know how you say it.
That's like a Pennsylvanian.
Their name is Brodsky, but
oh, my bad.
It's pronounced Brodsky.
I'm on top of them.
Oh.
Not really. No, but you can find me on all of those. Though Blue Sky, I need to actually make my account more than just making it physically. Anyway, you can find me on all of those as Marianne D. Hobbit. Yep, I post Lord of the Rings memes and sometimes voice actor stuff and One Piece things as well because I'm a giant nerd. Surprise.
Welcome.
I'll pretend to be giant.
Oh,
In the
let me
most
try
loving
and
way.
let me try and become a giant nerd just for this segment so I fit in. The joke is I am. Brodsky, where can people find you?
You can still find me on Twitter at the word double _ the number 0 _ snake. Don't stop.
I'm shaking my head.
The SEO is fire.
And you can also find me on Instagram and Blue Sky under all one word Oive Brodsky.
I love that one. I love it.
I'm hanging on to
speaks to it.
my double.
I know
snake.
you are. I know, but come on. You could I would buy merchandise with that, even though it wouldn't make any sense. Like, why are you wearing something that says Oive Brodsky? Who is Brodsky? I'd be like, I don't care.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
You
Why are you asking me about my shirt?
Brodsky.
Yeah. Blue Sky was actually made for me.
Yeah, we both
Beesky?
yeah.
PS.
Brodsky, Blueski.
Yeah.
Brodsky at Blueski. Josh, where could people find you and your Zorro stuff?
Well, you can find me online at all of the regular places: Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky. In fact, user Amons, AMONNS.
Thank you,
So
Josh.
listen,
Any
listen
other?
here, you and all you guys and your universal usernames.
Oh, brand continuity.
Yeah, come on.
Never heard of it.
I thought about doing something more professional for Blue Sky, and then I went, lol, no.
No, I enjoy all of the content you post.
I think we all enjoy Lord of the Rings. Anyway, you could follow me at, I don't post there very much anymore, but Twitter, Zach_Logan. On Blue Sky, if you have an invitation, if you need one, you could become a patron. I've been giving them to our patrons because I just am getting invitations. And everyone I know has them already. But I'm zach.onepiecePodcast.com there. There is no brand continuity there. I apologize. You could also, I'm sorry, Josh. He was shaking his head at me. I don't appreciate that. You could follow us at onepiecepodcast.com. The website is new and improved. I work on it too much on all the little details when I'm bored, so it will constantly be updated with new stuff. On Instagram.com/onepiecepodcast, Twitter.com, Blue Sky, we are onepiecepodcast.com. Sorry. We are on anywhere you get your podcast. And most importantly, patreon.com/onepiecepodcast, where we have alternate images and alternate titles. Brodsky, did you have any alternate images for this week, or was this one in the can?
This one kind of was in the can, I think.
They got it in one, though.
Yeah, but I did
be
have
fair.
another idea, but that was for a later,
Okay.
a different segment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later then. Check that out. Subscribe to us. It's $5 a month. It's not that bad. And you could also call us at our phone number, which is 347-497-MAGI. That phone number, again, 347-497-6254. Call anytime with your questions, comments, theories, or how to get yourself a bedazzled Jimbei. I know I'm looking for it, and I'm assuming Josh is looking for it because of how impressed you were.
Oh,
Yeah.
I want all of them covered in rhinestones. I want a whole set.
You know what? Yes.
I'll make you one personally.
Or what is it that you usually say, Josh? I love that for you.
I love that for
Definitely.
me. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's great. I don't even mean that sarcastically. Anyway, next week, Anthony Bowling, Emily Farhado, the 80-year directors for One Piece. It's going to be a lot of fun. And a new chapter. Believe it or not, we've only had like 20 chapters this year, I realized.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, Oda's just slacking, not doing anything else. He's
he's-
sitting at the beach.
Oh, he's resting his body from the years. Of
He's got Jimbei's hoodie, Jimmy Buffett thing going, and he's just not doing anything. Anyway, thank you all for listening. We'll see you next week. My name is Zach. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.